Chapter 697 Great Tao Immeasurable Calamity. Chapter 697 Great Tao Immeasurable Calamity. Although Qin Ling's potential was unparalleled, he had yet to grow up. Hanju lost interest after observing him for a while. He retracted his gaze and started to visit Divine Lord Peacock in his dreams. Previously, he had seen Divine Lord Peacock suffer a mysterious curse and was worried that something would happen to him. The dream was above the Yellow Spring. Hanju met Divine Lord Peacock in the image of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Divine Lord Peacock opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that it was him. "Why are you being cursed?" Hanju asked. Divine Lord Peacock looked at him in surprise and asked, "You can sense that?" Hanju didn't answer and replied with an attitude. Divine Lord Peacock waved his hand and said, "Don't worry. Previously, I only placed the karma bead in a place to make it stronger. In the end, I gave that fiend celestial a chance. Tisk, he's really the curse fiend celestial. However, his curse is too weak. Even without the karma bead, he can't curse me to death. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0T, C0M. Divine Lord Peacock looked proud. He had been defeated by the inauspicious Divine Emperor previously. In the past tens of thousands of years, he had regained his confidence in dealing with the curse fiend celestial. Hanju asked, "You can't kill him?" Divine Lord Peacock said, "The chaotic fiend celestial is not that easy to kill. This fellow is not the main body. I can only chase after him and make him unable to rest." Hanju said, "All right. If you can kill him, I'll help you attain the Great Tao." Divine Lord Peacock's eyes lit up. "Really? Of course. All right, just you wait. Even if it's 1,000,000 years or 10,000,000 years, I'll definitely kill the curse fiend celestial. To be honest, I don't like him either. He's so sneaky and sarcastic." Hearing his words, Hanju felt that he had been tricked. Then he asked him about his recent encounters. Divine Lord Peacock didn't hide anything during the pursuit of the curse fiend celestial. Divine Lord Peacock had also encountered many cultivators and mysterious worlds. He discovered that a strange change was happening in the chaos. More and more worlds appeared, and more cultivators walked in the chaos. 100,000 years ago, the chaos was a forbidden zone for living beings. Other than existences who had attained the Tao, very few living beings dared to act recklessly. Recently, the inauspicious evil and Tao devils had become well-behaved. Because of the appearance of the inauspicious Divine Emperor, Divine Lord Peacock suspected that a terrifying existence who controlled all the Tao devils might also appear. If the inauspicious evil and the Tao devils were restrained and commanded, they would definitely be two powerful forces, especially the Tao devils. Previously, in the deity realm of the ruins of End, there were many powerful Tao devils who could resist the great Tao sages. The great Tao immeasurable calamity was approaching. Divine Lord Peacock asked, "What do you think about the great Tao immeasurable calamity?" Hanju said, "I'm prepared. Continue your task in peace. As long as you kill the curse fiend celestial, I'll ensure that you survive the great Tao calamity." Divine Lord Peacock was relieved. Hanju didn't say anything else and removed the dream. His greatest reliance was the Tao field. As long as he attained the great Tao, the Tao field would definitely level up again. Once the great Tao immeasurable calamity began, he would directly use the invocation technique and forcefully summon all the disciples who had grasped the invocation technique back to transcend the tribulation together. If Divine Lord Peacock could kill the curse fiend celestial, Hanju would also teach him the invocation technique. Of course, if Divine Lord Peacock couldn't do it, then don't blame Hanju for being cold and heartless. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes. "I want to know how long more the great Tao immeasurable calamity will take to arrive. 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" Tsk. It was already equivalent to the value of a Tao creator. Continue. If there are no major changes, it will be in about 23 billion years. Fortunately, it was far enough. However, this major change, Hanju suddenly felt that it was not reliable. The heavenly Tao immeasurable calamity had been brought forward. Could the major change be referring to him? Hanju was secretly vigilant. He had to be more well-behaved in the future, and not change the situation in the chaos easily. I want to know what the first battle of the Great Tao Immeasurable Calamity is like. Hanju asked again in his mind. 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Hanju entered the illusion. He opened his eyes and discovered that he was standing in the void. Countless meteors floated in the surrounding dark space. They were very scattered among each other. A huge light ahead expelled the darkness. He narrowed his eyes and saw a huge head in the light. He couldn't see its true appearance. He could only see the other party's long hair fluttering like dragons. What a big head. Hanju estimated that it was even larger than the entire heavenly Tao. How exaggerated was this? Even though they were extremely far away, Hanju could still feel how tiny he was. At this moment, Hanju suddenly felt an extremely strong aura coming from behind. He turned around and saw a golden light appear in the depths of the darkness. It was actually a 5-clawed golden dragon. Its body was billions of feet long, and stirred up vast waves as it flew. On the dragon's head stood a burly figure. He held a golden halberd and wore silver chain armor. He wore a dragon's head jade crown, and looked mighty and domineering. Wasn't this Han Yu's grand disciple Qin Ling? This child would start the first battle of the Great Tao Immeasurable Calamity? Figures appeared near the 5-clawed golden dragon. All of them emitted powerful auras. The weakest was at the zenith heaven golden immortal realm. A vertical eye opened between Qin Ling's eyebrows, and his 3 eyes turned red. He glared at the huge and majestic head in front of him and shouted angrily. Children of the heavenly Tao. The chaotic deities did not tolerate the heavenly Tao and destroyed it. Today, we must kill him, and avenge the heavenly Tao and fight for it. So what if they're the chaotic deities? The era of chaos has long passed. The power of the primordial chaos is unstoppable. Kill with me. The 5-clawed golden dragon roared angrily and flew away. It was extremely fast and swept past Hanju in the blink of an eye. What a domineering aura. Hanju felt that Qin Ling had already surpassed the great Tao Sage realm. Even the 5-clawed golden dragon under his feet was extremely powerful. In the boundless light, the huge head suddenly opened its eyes. A pair of huge eyes appeared, and their pupils were filled with the image of Taiji. A mere heavenly Tao dares to destroy the chaos? Panga couldn't do it back then, let alone you. A cold snort sounded. Even Hanju couldn't help but feel a little dizzy when he heard it, let alone the heavenly Tao experts behind him. They all swayed and stopped. Qin Ling stepped on the 5-clawed golden dragon and swung his halberd. A black spatial crack appeared with his halberd and quickly expanded, colliding with the chaotic deity with unstoppable force. The eyes of the chaotic deity suddenly transformed into 2 huge vortexes that absorbed the black crack. He could even absorb space. Qin Ling waved his halberd again. His muscles tensed up. Just by looking at his figure, one could feel the explosive power. Boom! The entire void shattered, and was replaced by a purple space. Boundless purple mist surged in and drowned the chaotic deity. Wake up! A voice came from behind Hanju. He turned around and saw that the heavenly Tao experts who had fallen head over heels for him had all woken up. An incomparably majestic figure appeared behind them. Behind him stood terrifying shadows, but before Hanju could see them clearly, the illusion shattered. Chapter 698 Destined Birth. Chapter 698 Destined Birth. Hanju opened his eyes. His heart was still palpitating. The future great Tao Immeasurable Calamity was so terrifying. Qin Ling's casual strike directly shattered the dark forbidden zone. It was too exaggerated. Fortunately, there were still more than 20 billion years to go. Who was the last mysterious figure to appear? He should be on the same side as Qin Ling. Could it be him? This was because Hanju saw many shadows behind that figure. All of them looked terrifying. It was very likely his grand unity aspect. In addition, Qin Ling also mentioned the primordial chaos. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0TC0M. There was nothing wrong with the primordial fiend celestial establishing the primordial world. Hanju adjusted his state of mind. The future is so terrifying. I have to maintain a cultivation attitude and not relax. Hanju thought silently. He had to stand in the strongest position to be at ease. When he reached his strongest, he would definitely indulge himself. Han Ju stopped thinking and continued to comprehend the great Tao. One thing was certain, even 20 billion years later, there were still very few great Tao sages. There was not a single great Tao sage among the heavenly Tao experts who followed Qin Ling. There was only one freedom sage and less than 20 heavenly Tao sages. Of course, there was another possibility. That was that the chaotic deities had destroyed the heavenly Tao and killed all its great Tao sages. The next boss, chaotic deities. Wuxia Divine Mountain. At the top of the mountain, in front of a Taoist temple, Qin Ling, who was dressed in white, sat by the cliff and absorbed the connate qi of heaven and earth. Han Yu walked out of the Taoist temple and came to his side. Qin Ling opened his eyes and looked up at him. Grandmaster. He was very respectful to Han Yu. After so many years, he already treated him like family. Usually, his master Tian Yong did not care about him at all. It was his grandmaster who taught him cultivation. Han Yu reached out and rubbed his head. He smiled and said, "Unknowingly, you're already an immortal emperor. The human race will hold a 10,000 dynasty pilgrimage ceremony. The human emperor will arrange for the geniuses of the various dynasties to spar. As a faction of the human emperor temple, we have to send geniuses to participate. This is a chance to become famous. Do you want to participate?" Hearing this, Qin Ling stood up and clenched his fists. He said excitedly, "I'm willing. Grandmaster, when are we leaving?" He was already tired of meditating and cultivating every day. He had always wanted to spar with others, but the living beings of Wuxia Divine Mountain were all quiet cultivators. His grandmaster did not allow him to cause trouble. Han Yu smiled. "There's no hurry. I'll teach you some mystical powers first." Qin Ling nodded excitedly. As a member of the heavenly Tao race, the human race was about to start the 10,000 dynasty pilgrimage ceremony. This matter caused a huge commotion in the immortal world. The prodigies of the other races and providence sects were roped in by the various dynasties of the human race, preparing to compete. This was the era of prodigies. The geniuses were all high-spirited and arrogant. They were waiting for such a huge opportunity. Who did not want to become the number one prodigy of the heavenly Tao? Perhaps this 10,000 dynasty pilgrimage ceremony was not the number one in the heavenly Tao, but it would still allow the geniuses who stood out to be closer to it. For a time, the immortal world changed. Boom! Lightning interweaved. In the endless darkness, red mist surged. Pan Xian knelt on an altar. There were huge pillars on all four sides. On the pillars were carved sinister and strange figures of fiend celestials. In front of him stood a huge purple crystal, quietly spinning and floating. "So, you can't control the heavenly Tao?" A vast voice sounded. Pan Xian lowered his head even more and said in shame, "Sorry, the situation of the heavenly Tao is too complicated. The roots of the sages are too deep. It's very difficult for me to control them." He was stronger than the sages, but he couldn't kill them in the heavenly Tao. This made the heavenly Tao sages not afraid of him at all. What made him most depressed was that these sages rarely left the heavenly Tao, as if they were deliberately guarding against him. The vast voice said, "Forget it. After all, this is the foundation of the Tao sect that the Tao ancestor has been managing for a long time. It's not something you can change just because you want to. The chaotic heavenly road is not bad. It might not be effective now, but when the living beings of the heavenly Tao can't become stronger in the heavenly Tao, the chaotic heavenly road will be their only choice. At that time, you can protect them and grow. You can gradually expand your connections." "All right," Pan Xian replied. He rolled his eyes and said carefully, "I want to attain the great Tao, but relying on the inheritance of the giant god Pangu is not enough." He was not stupid. Since he couldn't defeat a sage in scheming, he would think of a way to increase the difference in cultivation. Now, he was already at the perfected freedom primordial chaos realm, but he had no clue how to attain the great Tao. There were no related records in Panga's inheritance. The ancient voice replied, "Your foundation is not enough. Wait for now. Strengthen your heavenly Tao providence first." Pan Xian frowned and could only give up. A prodigy has appeared in the depths of the chaos. Although he's not a chaotic fiend celestial, he has the potential to become one. You can accept him, and let him guard the other end of the chaotic heavenly road, the ancient voice instructed. Pan Xian asked in surprise. If he's not a chaotic fiend celestial, how can he compare to a chaotic fiend celestial? The ancient voice said, don't be restricted by the existing concepts. The chaotic fiend celestials were only born from the chaos. As time passed, the era moved even more. There will definitely be new potential that surpasses the past. Otherwise, how can the chaos continue? When Pangu appeared, the chaotic deities also didn't think highly of him. The potential of any living being born can't be guessed. Not to mention the chaos. Even living beings born from the heavenly Tao can have extraordinary potential, such as me and Hanju. Pan Xian pondered. A beam of light shot out from the purple crystal and entered the space between Pan Xian's eyebrows. Pan Xian stood up, bowed, and left. The altar returned to silence. The flashing lightning continued. In the myriad worlds projection, in a virtual space, the personal disciples of the hidden sect sat around a long table and discussed intensely. Xing Hongxian suddenly appeared. She found a seat and sat down. After cultivating in seclusion for a long time, she needed to relax, so she wanted to understand the situation in the immortal world. The myriad worlds projection had always been the intelligence exchange center of the hidden sect. Even after becoming a sage, Li Daokong often returned. He did not alienate his personal disciple just because he had become a sage. Xing Hongxian heard them talking about the 10,000 dynasty pilgrimage ceremony and mentioned the names of many geniuses. For example, Dugaxing, Xianyuanche, Qinling, Huayin, Zhaozheng, and so on. Xing Hongxian listened with relish. The immortal world was becoming more and more exciting. She couldn't help but touch her abdomen as her eyes filled with anticipation. When the black-haired chicken saw Xing Hongxian appear, it suddenly smiled and said, "What do you think our little master's potential will be after he's born?" Everyone looked at her. Xing Hongxian was Hanju's publicly acknowledged Dao companion, so the disciples naturally didn't dare to joke. Li Daokong muttered, "#1 in the world." He had no intention of flattering him. As a human, he had been nurtured for tens of thousands of years. His blood essence had already surpassed the immortal realm. Even the son of the immeasurable calamity could not compare. The other disciples agreed. Xing Hongxian shook her head and smiled. "What's the use of having good potential? Don't you know your master? After this kid is born, he will definitely be locked up in the 100-peak immortal river and can't go out." She did not deny Li Daokong's words. She knew her child's potential the best because, with his help, her cultivation level increased much faster than before. It could even be described as soaring. Chapter 699 Oath to the Great Tao. Chapter 699 Oath to the Great Tao. Hearing Xing Hongxuan's words, the personal disciples also sighed. With Hanju's personality, he probably couldn't go out and show his potential. They did not blame him. If not for Hanju's domineering rules, many of them would have died outside. It was precisely because of long-term cultivation that they could have their current cultivation level. They didn't dare to talk too much about Hanju, and the topic quickly changed. Li Xianao clicked his tongue in wonder. Qinling's potential is stunning in the entire immortal world. His cultivation level is at the immortal emperor realm, and he can already reach the deity realm. Furthermore, he can suppress everyone forcefully. "Senior, your judgment is as good as ever." Li Daokong smiled. "It's all right. The one teaching Qinling is mainly my disciple. It has nothing to do with me." Zhou Fan suddenly appeared and asked curiously, "Your disciple also has master's bloodline, right?" Han Tuo's existence was no longer a secret. Especially when the personal disciples who went out saw Hanyu, they were shocked. This matter could not be hidden anymore. Xing Hongxian also said that she knew about this, so the disciples had no scruples. Li Daokong nodded. The other personal disciples discussed Hanyu and Han Tuo. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0TC0M. Hanju's attitude towards Han Tuo was very abnormal. He was completely letting him go, making them have many guesses. Sun Chang'an smiled. "No matter what, Qinling is also a disciple of our hidden sect. In the future, you should take care of the people outside. Prodigies are very easy to target. Don't let him die young." Li Daokong nodded, indicating that he hoped so. He was a sage and only had one disciple. There were many things that he could not interfere in, and could only rely on the power of the hidden sect. After becoming a sage, Li Daokong still believed that he belonged to the hidden sect. After all, he could become a sage all because of Hanju. Therefore, he didn't develop his own faction, but focused on cultivating. He understood that Hanju didn't need an increasingly large faction. The focus was on the high-end combat strength of the hidden sect. The exchange in the myriad worlds projection was only the shadow of a great era. But from this, it could be seen how successful the human race's pilgrimage was. More than 100 geniuses appeared in a grand ceremony. Every one of them had a reputation that was known by at least billions of living beings. 10,000 dynasties came from different regions. The humans and living beings of the various regions were naturally most concerned about the geniuses who represented their regions. Therefore, even if they were ranked in the dozens, they would still be the pride of a region. In a region, there were not only 10 billion living beings but trillions. Qin Ling was also famous in the world, but because his cultivation level was too low, he couldn't overshadow the other geniuses. He was still far from being the number one in the world. After the end of the pilgrimage, the immortal world was in turmoil. Many geniuses were attacked and killed. The conflict between the dynasties became more and more intense, but it was generally peaceful. In the eyes of the sages, it was considered peaceful as long as there was no domain-level war. The immortal world was so big, it was impossible for there to be no conflict. At noon on this day, Hanju slowly opened his eyes. His eyes opening meant that another 5,000 years had passed. To the living beings of the immortal world, it might be a lifetime, but to mortals, it was 100 lifetimes. He was already very close to the Great Tao realm. He was only a step away. He did not check his emails or observe the immortal world. Instead, he recalled his Great Tao of extreme origin. The Great Tao realm was the transcendent realm. Hanju didn't need to accumulate cultivation anymore. He only needed his soul to break through the door of the Great Tao. Unknowingly, he felt a mysterious force pressing against the door of the Great Tao, preventing him from pushing it open. Hanju didn't believe it. He wanted to forcefully attain the Tao with the Great Tao of extreme origin. It was just a stupid door. Why couldn't he break through? Hanju focused and mobilized the power of the Great Tao of extreme origin. His soul jumped into a mysterious void. Figures appeared in front of him, all facing the door of the Great Tao. The door of the Great Tao stood in the void. It was 10,000 feet tall and majestic. It seemed to represent the other side. It was terrifying. Hanju walked past the other Tao pursuers, and suddenly discovered a familiar figure. Pan Xian. This fellow had also begun to pursue the Great Tao. Unfortunately, he was still far from the door of the Great Tao. Hanju continued forward, and soon arrived at the door. The door of the Great Tao seemed to be made of white rock. Its surface was engraved with various patterns that recorded the deeds of the various races of the chaos, including the humans. Hanju saw many myths. Panga splitting open the heavens, Niwa mending the sky, Gonggong angrily crashing into the Buzhou mountain, Jingwei filling the sea, Hui shooting the sun, and so on. These were all myths and legends that Hanju had been influenced by in his previous life. They only occupied a small corner of the Great Tao door. There was a figure at the top of the Great Tao door. His figure was strange and extremely distorted. He was meditating and had dozens of arms. Every palm held a mysterious item that even Hanju couldn't see clearly. That was probably a chaotic deity. Hanju retracted his gaze and looked at the Great Tao door again. The door of the Great Tao looked as firm as a rock and could not be pushed open. Hanju condensed the Great Tao of extreme origin. A huge black shadow slowly emerged from his body and quickly condensed into his figure. Then, he quickly became burly, like those ancient fiend celestials carved on the door of the Great Tao. The Great Tao of extreme origin roared angrily and pressed his palms against the door of the Great Tao. It began to push the Great Tao gate with all its might. However, it did not move. Hanju showed a frown. Something was indeed wrong. Something was obstructing him. Hanju immediately used the Dharma idol fusion technique and fused the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial, the strength Fiend Celestial, the Battle Fiend Celestial, and the other Fiend Celestial Dharma idols with domineering power into the great Tao of extreme origin. At first glance, it was as if shadows emerged from Hanju's back and entered the huge black shadow formed by the great Tao of extreme origin. Every time a Fiend Celestial power entered, the black shadow of the great Tao of extreme origin would increase by 10,000 feet. Boom! The door of the great Tao began to shake violently. It was enough to show how terrifying Hanju's strength was. The entire immortal world was in front of Hanju. He could easily crush it into dust with a finger. How dare you? A shout suddenly sounded, causing Hanju's soul to tremble. He suddenly looked up and saw black mist surging above the door of the great Tao. It was like a huge beast crawling on the door of the great Tao and looking down at him. Hanju saw a pair of cold eyes. He had seen many such eyes before. They were all filled with contempt for ants. Hanju said, "Why are you stopping me?" The black mist said in a low voice, "How can a mortal enter the door of the great Tao?" Hanju didn't believe it, and continued to make the great Tao of extreme origin push. The door opened a small crack. A violent wind roared out, but it could not shake the great Tao of extreme origin. Hanju secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the mysterious black mist couldn't stop him with all its might, and could only use some small methods. Without the recognition of the chaotic deities, you are not allowed to step into the great Tao. Mortal, you are courting death. The black mist said angrily, its voice even louder than before. Hanju asked, "Then, how do I obtain the recognition of the chaotic deities?" "Kneel down and swear to the great Tao that you will forever be loyal to the chaotic deities and the chaos." Hanju smiled. So this was the trap. No wonder the Tao ancestor wanted to disappear. It seemed that he was restrained by the chaotic deities. Chapter 700 Achieving the Great Tao. Chapter 700 Achieving the Great Tao. Facing the pressure of the black mist, Hanju's great Tao of extreme origin didn't stop. It continued to push the door of the great Tao. A line of words appeared in front of him. Detected that you are threatened by a great Tao divine spirit. You have the following choices. 1. Lower your head and swear to submit to the chaotic deities. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a heavenly Tao spirit stone. 2. Push open the door to the great Tao. You should cut through all obstacles and risk your life on the path to the Tao. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and a creation spirit stone. A choice that had not appeared for a long time. Ever since Hanju attained the Tao, such choices were almost extinct. This time, the system was clearly biased towards option 1. Hanju felt that the system was going against him. It always used more rewards to lure him on the path he didn't want to take. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0TC0M. He directly chose the second option. You chose to open the door to the great Tao, and obtained a great Tao fragment and a creation spirit stone. At this point, Hanju gathered 9 great Tao fragments. He continued to control the great Tao of extreme origin to push the door of the great Tao. At this point he couldn't lower his head. If he wanted to become stronger, he could only push open this door. If he lowered his head, he would definitely be a toy in the hands of the chaotic deities in the future. Hanju could only take a gamble now. He bet that after he attained the great Tao, the Tao field could be upgraded. "Open for me," Hanju roared in his mind. The black mist on the great Tao door became even angrier and roared, "Mortal, you will pay a price you can't afford." Hanju was not afraid of him at all. If it was really a chaotic deity, he might still feel scared. However, the system notification indicated that this fellow was a great Tao divine spirit, an existence similar to a great Tao sage. Clearly, this fellow was using the chaotic deity's name to intimidate others. Boom! The doors of the great Tao were constantly pushed open, and the wind that whistled out was even stronger. The black mist dissipated. The great Tao divine spirit knew that it was useless to talk nonsense, and could only leave. Despair Tao spirit has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 6 stars. Great. I'll curse you when I get back. Hanju snorted in his mind. He fused with a few fiend celestial Dharma idols again. The black shadow formed by the great Tao of extreme origin raised his arm and pushed. The door to the great Tao finally opened completely. A dazzling light emerged and covered Hanju's figure. At the same time, he felt a powerful suction force. The wind began to reverse and no longer blew out but in. He immediately stepped into the door of the great Tao. Boom! Thunderclouds gathered in the immortal world and the myriad worlds. Terrifying heavenly might enveloped the heavens. Even the 33rd heaven was suppressed by the heavenly might. The sages walked out of their Tao fields and gathered in front of the universal hall. What's happening? What a terrifying heavenly might. Did something happen to the heavenly Tao? Could it be that someone has attained the Tao? Previously, when we attained the Tao, there was no such phenomenon. Then what's going on? The great Tao immeasurable calamity has descended in advance? The sages couldn't help but look at Heavenly Venerate Xian. Du he knew the most. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du frowned. I'm not sure either. Let's wait and see. To have such heavenly might means that the heavenly Tao is protecting itself and warning all living beings. To be predicted by the heavenly Tao means that it's not a calamity. His words made the sages heave a sigh of relief. They were afraid that the chaos would attack again. It had been tens of thousands of years since the last heavenly Tao crisis. They could finally take a breather and cultivate in peace. They did not want to face enemies stronger than themselves. The sages were so flustered, let alone all living beings. The current immortal world was not as isolated as before. With the integration of the calamity race, all living beings had a better understanding of the chaos and knew that many powerful existences hiding in the chaos hated the heavenly Tao. Because of the protection of the Tao field, the hundreds of thousands of disciples did not feel anything special. In the Taoist temple, Hanju had already begun to break through. Freedom transformed into the great Tao. This was an indescribable transformation. It could be said to be a complete transformation. From his body dermic power's soul to his senses, he had transformed in all aspects. Hanju opened his eyes, causing golden light to burst out. The myriad worlds were reflected in his eyes. His vision swept towards the chaos at an extremely fast speed. He saw worlds and domains that were either magnificent or sinister. He saw Tao pursuers wandering in the chaos. He saw the evil heavenly emperor, Han Tua, and Chu Shuren, as well as many enemies. At a glance, it was not spying. Hanju was worried that he would see a transcendent existence like chaotic consciousness, and immediately retracted his gaze. 49 years later, detected that you have attained the great Tao. You have the following choices. 1. Your name will shake the chaos. After consolidating your cultivation, you will roam the chaos and become famous. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a heavenly Tao spirit stone, a creation spirit stone, a supreme treasure, a mystical power inheritance, and a chance to upgrade the Tao field. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and maintain your original intention. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a heavenly Tao spirit stone, a creation spirit stone, and a chance to upgrade the Tao field. As expected, the Tao field could be upgraded. Hanju immediately chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and maintain your original intention. You obtained a great Tao fragment, a heavenly Tao spirit stone, a creation spirit stone, and a chance to upgrade the Tao field. The Tao field has begun to upgrade. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. He finally began to level up. Although it felt good to reject the great Tao divine spirit, he would inevitably be worried later. As Hanju consolidated his cultivation, he checked his attributes panel. Name: Hanju lifespan: 265,060/1, 029, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999. Race: Primordial Fiend Celestial, Immeasurable Emperor. Cultivation: Early Stage Great Tao Primordial Chaos Realm, Perfect Sage. Technique: Primordial Chaos Reincarnation Great Tao, Heavenly Cycle Body Tempering, Great Tao of Life and Death, Great Tao of Karma, Great Tao of Extreme Origin. There were 3 more digits in front of the lifespan, indicating a leap in lifespan. If time really existed indefinitely, Hanju's lifespan was already comparable to that of chaos. He might even surpass it. Hanju was excited. Soon, he restrained his emotions and continued to consolidate his cultivation. After breaking through, his dermic powers were increasing at an extremely exaggerated speed. His soul was still transforming. This feeling was extremely wonderful, even more extreme than any joy in the world. In the chaotic void, countless meteors surrounded a huge palace in the shape of a vortex. This palace had no ceiling, and the ground was extremely vast. A figure suddenly descended into the hall. It was Jiayin. Jiayin bowed. A black shadow appeared on the steps in front of him like a whirlwind. It was difficult to tell its true form. Exalted God, the Hanju you're looking for has been hiding in the heavenly Tao and can't be killed, Jiayin said respectfully. The black shadow said in a low voice, this child violated the rules of the great Tao and must be eliminated. I'll leave this to you. Jiayin smiled helplessly. Our Sex Kundi and Jade Bodhi died under the hands of the Dark Forbidden Lord one after another. Hanju is closely related to him. If you want to deal with him, it's best to deal with the Dark Forbidden Lord first. When you deal with him, I'll attack Hanju. Chapter 701 Upgrade of the Tao Field. Chapter 701 Upgrade of the Tao Field. Facing Jiayin's refusal, the Black Shadow said in a low voice, are you negotiating with me? Jiayin said, the deity realm of the ruins of End is destroyed. We great Tao sages now wander, and can't obtain the help of the gods. We can't help them. The Black Shadow was silent. Jiayin's expression was normal. He was not afraid of offending the other party. He was a great Tao sage after all. He only gave the other party face because he was worried about the chaotic deities. In his circle, there were other great Tao divine spirits, but they were not as strong as this fellow. Their backgrounds were also inferior. The Black Shadow snorted. Why are you still standing here? Jiayin bowed and left. 2 steps later he disappeared. The Black Shadow disappeared and the hall fell silent. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0TC0M. 500 years later, Hanju opened his eyes and a notification appeared. The Tao field has been upgraded. The array formation has been raised to the level of a Tao creator. The space inside the Tao field has been expanded. Tao field immortal Qi has increased by 10 times. Khanate Qi has increased by 10 times. The Tao field can block all prying eyes. Tao creator level. Hanju felt comfortable. This time, the Tao field was completely stable, and he was not afraid of enemies. He had already reached the strongest limit. All prying eyes could be blocked. Hanju asked in his mind, can the chaotic consciousness barge into the Tao field? 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Can't barge in for the time being. Hanju frowned. It seemed that he was thinking too much, but it was enough for a short time. Hanju took out 2 creation spirit stones and entered the primordial world in the depths of his soul. He began to choose the chaotic fiend celestials. After hesitating for a long time, he finally chose the traversal fiend celestial and the fog fiend celestial. The traversal fiend celestial could be an intelligence spy in the future. The fog fiend celestial could help cover the second Tao field. After the 2 creation spirit stones fused with the fiend celestial Qi, Hanju looked at the great Tao fragment and the heavenly Tao spirit stone. This time, he still had to choose a sealing method to throw targets into the primordial heavenly prison. As for the heavenly Tao spirit stone, he was a little hesitant to upgrade the Book of Misfortune again. It was very difficult to obtain a Dharma treasure that surpassed the great Tao realm. The system's choices also decreased. Although the Book of Misfortune was strong, it had rarely cursed an enemy to death when facing a great Tao sage. It would even give the curse fiend celestial a chance to rope in forces. Although the primordial judgment sword was Hanju's accompanying Dharma treasure, it couldn't be forcefully upgraded. It could only become stronger because of his cultivation. Hanju considered the killing Tao token and the heaven-opening axe. One day, he would have to personally walk through the chaos. The image of Pan-Exian lingered in his mind. Forget it, he would preach the Tao first. It had been many years, Hanju thought. At the same time, the disciples were still marveling at the increase in the spirit Qi, when the great Tao of extreme origin suddenly covered the entire 100-peak immortal river. causing everyone to fall into a state of Tao comprehension. Buzhou Divine Mountain. At the top of the mountain, Han Yu stood by the cliff and looked down at the majestic mountain range. His gaze followed a figure. The figure rode the clouds above the mountains. He flipped around, and his speed was extremely fast, like a swan. Han Yu looked satisfied. In the past, when he took in Tianyong as his disciple, he was already pleasantly surprised. However, when he taught Qin Ling, he finally understood what the true joy of education was. No matter what he taught, Qin Ling learned it in one go. Not only that, but Qin Ling was also very obedient and liked to pester him, unlike Tianyong, who always had his own thoughts. Now Han Yu and Qin Ling were more like father and son. After Qin Ling's mother died, he treated Han Yu as the most important person and his only family. Speaking of this, Qin Ling was also very sad back then. However, ever since he went to the netherworld and learned that his father had long died, he told his mother about this. His mother no longer wanted to live. Without cultivation potential, even if she extended her life, it would only increase her loneliness. Han Yu had taught him that everyone had their own fate. Not everyone wanted to live forever. Without the ties of mortals, Qin Ling cultivated even more attentively, and his cultivation level increased rapidly. Han Yu suddenly sent a voice transmission to him. Qin Ling came in front of him. Grandmaster. Qin Ling smiled. In front of Han Yu, he was always a child. Han Yu smiled kindly and said, "Now, Grandmaster no longer has anything to teach you. You've really grown up." Qin Ling smiled. "What are you saying? Cultivating with Grandmaster is cultivation in itself." Han Yu shook his head and laughed. "Actually, I've always had a goal in my heart that I'm unwilling to accept. That is to surpass my heartless ancestor. However, I've asked my master before. The difference between us is getting greater and greater. It's probably wishful thinking to want to surpass him." Qin Ling was surprised. Han Yu's master was a sage. Han Yu was also a mighty figure in the world. To be able to obtain the evaluation of a sage, how strong was Han Yu's ancestor? Qin Ling asked, "Is that senior a sage?" Facing Han Yu's ancestor, he had to use honorifics and not mess up his seniority. Han Yu had a complicated expression as he said, "I'm not sure. He's no longer in the immortal world." Then he slowly told him the story of the Han family. Qin Ling listened carefully. As he listened, Qin Ling felt heartache. He had once thought that he had suffered the most, but compared to Grandmaster, he could imagine the despair Han Yu felt when the Han family was slaughtered, and he asked his ancestor for help. Any mighty figure had experienced unimaginable hardship. After Han Yu finished speaking, Qin Ling suddenly asked curiously, "Who is your ancestor's ancestor? He must be a sage, right?" Han Yu restrained his emotions and smiled. "I wanted to tell you about this. I want to send you to the hidden sect to cultivate." The hidden sect? Qin Ling was stunned. He had naturally heard of the hidden sect, the most mysterious and powerful force in the immortal world. Wait, could it be that your ancestor's ancestor is in the hidden sect? Qin Ling asked, his breathing quickened. Back at the human race's 10,000 dynasty pilgrimage ceremony, he had heard many legends about the hidden sect. Many of the geniuses ranked higher than him were also from this sect. The number of geniuses in the hidden sect was the highest among the sage sects. Han Yu smiled and nodded. Qin Ling's shocked expression pleased him. In another period of time, Qin Ling would catch up to him sooner or later. As the Grandmaster, if he couldn't continue to help his grand disciple, he would be very disappointed and frustrated. If he could use his connections to help his grand disciple pursue the great Tao, he would be considered competent. Then, will you enter the hidden sect with me? Qin Ling frowned and asked. Han Yu smiled. Silly child, I have to guard Buzhou Divine Mountain. Go. How old are you already? Why are you still pretending to be sentimental? I'm just informing you about this. Be prepared. After some time, the disciples of the hidden sect will come and fetch you. Qin Ling thought for a moment and finally nodded. He also wanted to become stronger. Recently, he indeed felt that his cultivation speed was not good. It wasn't only the Buzhou Divine Mountain. Such a situation was happening everywhere in the immortal world. The news of the increase in the spirit qi in the 100 Peak Immortal River had already reached Li Xian'ao's ears through the myriad worlds projection. Li Xian'ao began to plan to attract a group of top geniuses in the world to cultivate in the 100-peak Immortal River. He was confident that as long as they stayed in the 100-peak Immortal River for a period of time, they would never leave. To cultivators, cultivation speed was their greatest pursuit. Chapter 702 Great Change Sealing Palm. Chapter 702 Great Change Sealing Palm. After the 100-year lecture ended, Hanju took out the 9 Great Tao fragments and started to comprehend the Great Tao mystical power. 20 years later, he comprehended a Great Tao mystical power. Great Change Sealing Palm. Using the power of the Fiend Celestial to transform into a sealing power to imprison the enemy. It was extremely domineering. Hanju began the simulation trial and imprisoned ancestor Shitian with a palm. If it hit, the target would freeze. It's too powerful. Hanju was extremely excited. He continued the simulation trial and used his new mystical power to defeat ancestor Shitian. 2 hours later, Hanju began to improve his Sword Tao mystical powers. After that, he cultivated the Grand Unity aspect. In the blink of an eye, 70 years passed. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0T, C0M. Hanju had learned 150 new Fiend Celestial Dharma idols this time. The number far exceeded the previous times. Some powerful Great Tao also appeared among the 150 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols. For example, the Space Fiend Celestial, the Rewind Fiend Celestial, the Lone Fiend Celestial, and so on. As the name suggested, the Space Fiend Celestial controlled the power of space. Since ancient times, there had been a legend of the 3,000 Great Tao. Time was king and space was emperor. Of course, this was only a prejudice, but it was enough to show how powerful the Great Tao of time and space were. The Rewind Fiend Celestial could reverse everything that happened. Even if he died, he could return to his previous state. It was similar to the Great Tao of time. However, if time was erased, the Rewind Fiend Celestial could also reverse it. It could be said to be a match made in heaven with the Great Tao of time. The strength of the Lone Fiend Celestial was related to the number of chaotic Fiend Celestials. The fewer chaotic Fiend Celestials there were, the stronger he was. For this, he had to try his best to eliminate them. Other chaotic Fiend Celestials also had their own uses. Currently, Hanju already controlled 549 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols. He entered the simulation trial and mastered his skills. Every Great Tao sage was not Hanju's match in a one-on-one battle. He had the talent to cross realms and kill enemies. The Grand Unity aspect and the new Great Tao mystical power would only widen the gap between him and his peers. Hanju opened his eyes and moved Li Xian'ao in from the 100-peak Immortal River. Li Xian'ao opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that he had already arrived at Hanju's Taoist temple. He had brought a group of geniuses and waited outside for more than 10 years. The pressure was too great, and the geniuses were a little dissatisfied. The personal disciples didn't dare to disturb Hanju. They knew that even if he was cultivating, he could also sense the situation outside. There must be a reason why he left Li Xian'ao and the others alone. Little did they know that Hanju had only focused on cultivation and had indeed neglected Li Xian'ao. Li Xian'ao bowed respectfully and explained his intentions. Hanju used his sage sense to scan the area. After confirming that there was nothing abnormal with the geniuses, he agreed to Li Xian'ao's arrangements and directly moved them in, letting Li Xian'ao make the arrangements himself. Li Xian'ao thanked him excitedly and left. He had brought 37 geniuses this time. All of them had outstanding potential. A few had even awakened the chaotic physique and entered the chaotic domain. It had been a long time since Hanju went to the chaotic domain. The difference in levels was too great. It was meaningless going there. He noticed that among this group of geniuses was Hanju's grand disciple Qin Ling. This kid had actually reached the rank 8 Immortal Emperor realm. His breakthrough speed was indeed fast. Hanju only glanced at Qin Ling and had no intention of opening a back door for him. The current him was already a great Tao sage. The prodigies were nothing in front of him. Which of his enemies did not have heaven-defying talent and providence to reach their current heights? Hanju went to the second Tao field. After the spirit qi in the main Tao field transformed, the second Tao field was the same. The fiend celestials were still cultivating, and Hanju didn't disturb them. Guanbubi was already at the mid-stage pseudosage realm. After reaching the perfected pseudosage realm, Hanju would replace his chaotic fiend celestial bloodline. Great Loose Heaven was a perfected pseudosage. After becoming the Shadow Flood Fiend Celestial, he had been cultivating diligently. Hanju could feel that he was very close to attaining the Tao with strength. He thought for a moment, and sent a voice transmission to Great Loose Heaven to let him enter the temple. Great Loose Heaven was excited when he heard his voice. Relying on his own strength to attain the Tao required too much time. Be it Pangu or the Tao ancestor, both of them had spent billions of years comprehending it. Great Loose Heaven was anxious, and had long wanted to attain the Tao, so he wanted to ask Hanju for guidance. After entering the temple, Hanju sized up Great Loose Heaven, and was in no hurry to speak. The atmosphere was silent. After a long time, Great Loose Heaven suddenly kowtowed and gritted his teeth. Sect Master, I want to attain the Tao. In front of attaining the Tao, he could no longer care about his dignity. Hanju smiled. With the potential of the chaotic fiend celestial, you will attain the Tao sooner or later. You don't have to be anxious. Great Loose Heaven was silent, but he looked unwilling. Hanju asked, what do you want to do after attaining the Tao? Great Loose Heaven was stunned. I want the other sages regret it. A sage had promised him a sage position, but he had been intercepted. He would be furious every time he thought of this. During that period of time, he could be said to be the joke of the entire immortal world. From pseudo-sages to mortals who had just ascended, everyone knew that he had been played by a sage. Even a pseudo-sage wouldn't be able to withstand such humiliation. Great Loose Heaven, are you cultivating for yourself or for others? Hanju asked casually. Great Loose Heaven replied, of course it's for myself. It's just that I can slap their faces in passing. That's the best. Hanju said meaningfully, you want to slap the sages in the face today, but what about the next day? True mighty figures won't reveal their cultivation unless it's necessary. Take me for example. Before I attain the Tao, have you heard of me? After I attain the Tao, how many things have you heard of me? Those who love fame and fortune will only fall deeper and deeper. I stay away from trouble and cultivate in peace. I've already surpassed the sages. Great Loose Heaven felt ashamed. After all, he was someone who had experienced many things. He could listen to Hanju's lecture, based on his own experience. Of course, if it was someone with a lower cultivation level than him, he would only scoff and even fly into a rage out of humiliation. After you attain the Tao, I won't let you out either. The sage realm might be strong in the heavenly Tao, but it's not enough in the chaos. You have to cultivate here in peace in the future, understand? Hanju said earnestly. Hanju's situation made Great Loose Heaven ashamed. He pursued the sage realm, but Hanju treated it like an ant. Alright, it's time to help you attain the Tao. Hanju suddenly smiled. Great Loose Heaven was stunned, and then pleasantly surprised. He hurriedly kowtowed. He thought that Hanju was going to reject him. He didn't expect him to really use his conscience. His respect for Hanju instantly reached the extreme. He had followed the right person. Hanju directly used the Great Tao of extreme origin to cover Great Loose Heaven. After attaining the Great Tao, Hanju's Great Tao of extreme origin had already transformed. The vastness of the Tao made the pseudo-sage Great Loose Heaven fall into it. His soul was in an extremely sublime state. 100 years passed. Hanju ended his lecture and walked out of the Taoist temple. Great Loose Heaven had already obtained the method to attain the Tao, but if he wanted to do it, he still needed to cultivate alone. His eyes were filled with confidence. He was confident that he could attain the Tao in 5,000 years. Chapter 703 Erasing the Past. Chapter 703 Erasing the Past. After Great Loose Heaven left, Hanju looked at Rengang and Yin Hongchen. As the Earth immortal world and the immortal world were connected, the cultivation atmosphere also increased significantly. The reincarnation space distributed a large number of cultivation resources to the reincarnators. As the top reincarnators, Rengang and Yin Hongchen enjoyed the most. The two of them were still at the immortal emperor realm. Although they were still far from the deity realm, they were still improving. Their potential was not strong. It was all thanks to the resources of the reincarnation space. The two of them had been having a hard time recently. More and more cultivators from the immortal world had arrived, and there was no lack of factions and families among them. Conflicts naturally erupted. In the immortal world, cultivators would still worry about sages, but not in the Earth immortal world. They didn't know which sage controlled the Earth immortal world. There was even a situation where the forces of the immortal world had an unsolvable conflict. They agreed to come to the Earth immortal world to fight, and decide the outcome, and resolve the conflict. When the sages saw this situation, they turned a blind eye. If they suppressed the conflict too much, it would only intensify it. It was also a good thing to have a place to vent. Hanju sent a dream to Ren Gang and Yin Hongchen, wanting to ask if they were prepared to give up their freedom. In the end, after struggling, the two of them chose to wait. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0TC0M. They had not given up. They wanted to see how far they could go by themselves. Hanju also chose to respect their decision. He wasn't in a hurry. Only by achieving great enlightenment could they truly cultivate diligently. Otherwise, even if Hanju forcefully brought them to the second Tao field, they would be impetuous and develop mental demons. As his cultivation level increased, Hanju's mental state gradually relaxed. In the past, he was only afraid that his disciples would cause trouble for him. Now, if a disciple asked to go out, he wouldn't strictly stop them. However, no personal disciple went out recently. They might have gotten used to staying in the 100 Peak Immortal River. Hanju returned to the 100 Peak Immortal River, and happened to see Li Xian'e waiting in front of the Taoist temple. He prepared to go out again. Hanju sent him out with a thought. Although this was troublesome, it was at least safe. Hanju couldn't give the disciples free access. It would be over if the enemy infiltrated one day. The higher his cultivation level, the more careful Hanju had to be. Experts always failed miserably after getting overconfident. Hanju perked up and continued cultivating. The matter of him attaining the Great Tao did not cause a commotion in the Heavenly Tao because no one knew. Hanju was now the only Great Tao sage in the Heavenly Tao. Outside the 33rd heaven in the Panga Hall, Pan Xian sat on his mat and heaved a sigh of relief. His brows were filled with exhaustion. Not long after, Jin Shun and Emperor Shao arrived. The two of them bowed to Pan Xian. He waved his hand and gestured for them to sit down. This trip to the chaos can be considered to have established a great backer. In the future, it will be convenient for you to travel through the chaos, but it can only be considered convenient. The chaotic order is chaotic, so you still have to be extremely careful, Pan Xian said. Jin Shun and Emperor Shao were very happy. It was already the consensus of the Heavenly Tao to head to the chaos. Although the deity realm of the Ruins of End had repeatedly invaded the Heavenly Tao, it did not represent the entire chaos. The chaos was enormous, and the deity realm of the Ruins of End was only a small corner. The two sages noticed that Pan Xian was not very joyful. Emperor Shao asked, "What happened?" Pan Xian said, "It's fine. It's just a problem with my cultivation. I still want to become a great Tao sage in one go. But that senior said that my foundation is not enough. I still have to wait." Great Tao sage. Emperor Shao and Jin Shun were shocked. They knew that above the Heavenly Tao sage realm was the Freedom sage realm. Above that was the Great Tao sage realm. Pan Xian had already begun to touch that realm? He was truly an invincible existence in the Heavenly Tao. Emperor Shao narrowed his eyes and asked, "The other sages want to open a Tao field at the end of the chaotic heavenly road. Do you agree?" Pan Xian snorted. "Why? Aren't the immortal world and the myriad worlds enough for them? Reject them all. They don't even dare to use their true bodies to go. If they agree, we will have to take care of their Tao fields in the future." He had already experienced the shamelessness of sages. If he agreed today, the sages would make more requests tomorrow, and use all sorts of reasons and logic to make him speechless. Pan Xian also wanted to salvage his image now, and did not want to be as unreasonable as before. He didn't have the bearing of a mighty figure, but in terms of words, he was really inferior to those sages. Emperor Shao nodded. Jin Shen glanced at him, thinking about something 5,000 years past. Hanju opened his eyes and looked puzzled. Although he had become a great Dao sage, he was not a transcendent Dao expert. He was clearly not restricted by the great Dao. Could it be that he had created the great Dao of extreme origin, and in a sense, could be considered a great Dao sage? This was the only explanation. After becoming a great Dao sage, Hanju's cultivation speed suddenly slowed down. His current cultivation method was still to comprehend the Dao. Comprehending the Dao seemed to be meditation, but it was actually helping the great Dao develop. No matter what his thoughts were, the great Dao would develop in that direction. Hanju stopped thinking and checked the emails. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor has received guidance from a mysterious mighty figure. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Great Loose Heaven used his strength to attain the Dao and obtain the primordial chaos Dao fruit. Your grand disciple Feng Liang received a dream from the Dao ancestor. Your disciple Zhou Fan received your enemy 7 Dao sage's dream. Your disciple Yang Tiandong has entered the dark forbidden zone. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by your enemy, the Curse Fiend Celestial. Your enemy, the Curse Fiend Celestial, was attacked by your good friend Divine Lord Peacock. He was severely injured and only had a remnant soul left. Your good friend Empress Hutu was attacked by your enemy Fuxishan. Great Loose Heaven successfully attained the Dao. It was as Hanju had expected. Divine Lord Peacock gave him a surprise. This fellow was really persistent in chasing after the Curse Fiend Celestial. Further down, Empress Hutu and Fuxishan fought. Hanju felt that this was only a superficial sight. It might be a collision of two forces. The ancestral magi should not be considered a deity realm of the ruins of End Force. They might be taking revenge. Speaking of which, the tragic state of the magi indeed had the sages to blame. Why could the demons still do so well while the magi could not? They could only blame the Magus race for not having a sage back then. Empress Hutu was only a reincarnation sage and was far inferior to a heavenly Dao sage. Behind the demons were Nuwa and Fuxishan. Hanju continued reading with relish. After becoming a great Dao sage, looking at these enemies, he had a strange feeling. At least he did not feel threatened. At this moment, a line of words suddenly appeared in front of him. Detected that you are being erased by a mysterious force. Do you want to head to the chaotic river of destiny to stop it? If you go, the system will protect your karma and prevent you from being attacked by forces outside the chaotic river of destiny. Hanju frowned. What did this mean? What happens if I don't go? The past will be erased. Your disciples, relatives, and everyone who knows you will forget your existence. Chapter 704 Karma of the Chaos Core. Chapter 704 Karma of the Chaos Core. If I go, can I defeat the other party? Hanju asked in his mind. 200 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes, Hanju immediately relaxed. He asked, if I go, will I be attacked by even stronger existences? No, the chaotic river of destiny is a special space. It can only be entered by the soul, and can only be met by karma. The system will isolate other karma, other than the other party. I see. Hanju was enlightened. At the same time, he felt his memories flowing away. This feeling was very strange, but as a great Dao sage, he could indeed feel it. He immediately chose to go. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, D0TC0M. Immediately after, his soul jumped out of the heavenly Dao in the chaos, arriving at a higher domain. Hanju took a closer look. The surroundings were filled with a fantasy 7-colored light that was distorted and dizzying. Under Hanju's feet was a golden river of light formed by countless stars. Even as a great Dao sage, he couldn't count them at a glance. They were too dense and endless. Looking up, he couldn't see the end in all directions, including above. Was this the chaotic river of destiny? Frowning, Hanju immediately searched for the mysterious existence who wanted to erase his past. Soon, he locked onto a direction and immediately rushed over. In an instant, he arrived behind a figure. This figure was a black shadow. His true appearance could not be seen. He kept waving his hand at the river of destiny below. Without another word, Hanju waved his palm. Great change ceiling palm. The black shadow suddenly disappeared and dodged the palm. It appeared dozens of feet away. It's you. The black shadow was shocked. Hanju had a strange expression. The voice was familiar. Feng Liang. Hanju frowned. Wasn't Feng Liang already purified? Why was he here to erase his past? Could it be that this Feng Liang was not the Feng Liang of his timeline? Hanju asked. Why do this? The black shadow couldn't hide his shock and muttered. You've already attained the great Tao? Hanju attacked again, and suddenly appeared behind him. He used the great change ceiling palm. Feng Liang continued to dodge, and Hanju chased after him. Grandmaster. Wait. I'm not trying to harm you. Feng Liang said anxiously. Hanju stopped and said, Tell me honestly, or you will die. Feng Liang stopped and said, I'm from the timeline of the Great Tao Calamity. Your identity as the Dark Forbidden Lord has been exposed. The mighty figures of the chaos want to get rid of you. So I want to erase your past, so that they can't deduce your existence. Hanju still frowned. He asked in his mind, If he successfully erases my past, will I die? No. But you will be rejected by the chaos and the heavenly Tao. You will flow into an unknown blank domain. What is a blank domain? No karma. The system cannot derive it. He hesitated. At least he wouldn't die immediately after his past was erased. In other words, Feng Liang's words were still credible. Feng Liang gritted his teeth and said, Grandmaster, although you know about this matter involves many unimaginable mighty figures. Even if you change your fate, they will sense it. You can either become their enemy, or let me erase your past, so that they can't deduce it. Hanju snorted. So what if I'm their enemy? I'm not afraid. Don't do this for me in the future. This isn't the first time. He remembered that Feng Liang's soul had transmigrated to the primordial era, and also wanted to change his fate. Although it was for his own good, he did not need it. The path he was taking now was the correct path. The current Tao field array formation was at the Tao creator level. Even if the chaotic deities attacked, they wouldn't be able to break through in a short period of time. Moreover, even if the future chaotic deities sensed him, they wouldn't be able to deduce him. The Tao field could block all prying. Feng Liang hesitated. Hanju waved his hand. Get lost. Feng Liang took a deep breath and said, Grandmaster, it's my wish to see you again. Since you've already decided, I won't insist. I can only give you another piece of advice. Don't advance the great Tao immeasurable calamity. With that he disappeared. Hanju immediately left and returned to his body. He opened his eyes and recalled Feng Liang's words. Advancing the great Tao immeasurable calamity? Why would I do that? There was only one possibility. Someone had provoked him, or someone related to him had died. Hanju hesitated. Should he summon all the disciples outside? Forget it. If he did this, he would probably change something. Hanju asked in his mind. How long until the next great Tao calamity? 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. If there are no major changes, it will be in about 23 billion years. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there was no change. He was puzzled. Why can't I sense what Feng Liang did previously? Because he entered the chaotic river of destiny. This river is higher than the ordinary river of destiny, and is above the chaos. It is extremely difficult to find. If the future you is still alive, even without the system, the future you will quickly sense it unless the future you is suppressed. That made sense. In the future, he would be hunted down by the chaotic deities. He might be restrained and suppressed, unable to save his past self. It was so difficult. Why could Feng Liang find it? Could it be that he had borrowed the power of the Tao ancestor? Ever since Feng Liang had been targeted by the Tao ancestor, his soul had been able to pass through ancient times. This meant that the Tao ancestor had the ability to spy on the river of destiny. I have to be careful in the future. I can't leave the heavenly Tao easily, Hanju thought silently. Suddenly becoming curious, he immediately asked in his mind, how many deities are there in the chaos? It involves the karma of the chaos core. It cannot be deduced to prevent the backlash of karma. Hanju was stunned. This was the first time such a situation had happened. In the past, he couldn't deduce it because the other party was stronger than the system. The danger and the chaos was indeed very deep. Han Ju cursed silently. After being played by Fang Liang, he suddenly lost confidence. Previously, he was still very arrogant. After all, even Ancestor Shitian was not his match. Han Ju suddenly hoped that a powerful enemy would attack the heavenly Tao so that he could increase his confidence. He was indeed not strong enough to face the chaotic deities now. Han Ju shook his head. He took out the heavenly Tao Spirit Stone and the Book of Misfortune and decided to strengthen it and other Dharma treasures. He couldn't resist the chaotic deities either, so he might as well go all the way. From Fang Liang's words, he knew that the chaotic deities couldn't deduce the Dark Forbidden Lord's true identity. He had been exposed by someone. He made up his mind not to use the Book of Misfortune easily in the future. It was best to wait until the Book of Misfortune could injure the chaotic deities. Han Ju observed the immortal world as he upgraded the book. He had just experienced a soul-stirring battle, but the immortal world was still very calm. Recently, the providence of the heavenly Tao had increased greatly. Han Ju could feel that the heavenly Tao could accommodate another heavenly Tao sage. The sages would probably start scheming again. Han Ju had no intention of fighting. Now that he had grasped the great change sealing palm, even if the new sage was disobedient, he could just throw him into the primordial heavenly prison. Chapter 705 Old Brother Han. Chapter 705 Old Brother Han Ju was observing the immortal world when Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's voice entered his ears. Fellow Taoist Han, come to the Universal Hall. This fellow really knew how to read the mood. Han Ju had no choice but to put the Heavenly Tao Spirit Stone and the Book of Misfortune into the primordial world. He multitasked and let them continue to fuse. He followed them to the 33rd heaven and entered the Universal Hall. The sages arrived one after another. Indeed, it was for the new sage position. As usual, Han Ju didn't speak and watched the sages fight. Emperor Xiao said, "The devil race's sage position should be here soon. I've been waiting for countless years. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, D0TC0M. Qiu Shilai said disdainfully. Our Western sect is also waiting. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate said in a strange tone. The human school originally had 2 seats. The Heavenly Venerate has worked hard and contributed greatly. He should think about the human school, right everyone? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du glanced at the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate and was puzzled. How had he offended him? Pan Xian said, the chaotic heavenly road needs sages. This spot should belong to me. He thickened his face and asked for it directly. For a time, the sages began to fight and argue. Shi Dudao stood up and left. Li Daokong immediately followed. Soon the pressure of the 2 sages fighting came from the void. Han Ju didn't leave and looked at the sages with relish. He had already widened the gap between him and the Heavenly Tao sages, including Pan Xian and Heavenly Venerate Xian Du. None of them were a threat to him. Watching the sages argue could add to his peaceful cultivation years. After a while, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du looked at him and asked, what do you think, fellow Taoist Han? Han Ju smiled. You're asking me? Then give it to me, so that we don't get into a dispute. The sages were stunned and surprised. This was not Han Ju's style. Qiu Shilai immediately said, I think so too. Sect Master Tian Ju said, fellow Taoist Han has contributed greatly to the heavenly Tao. We should indeed reward the hidden sect with a sage seat. Heavenly Venerate Wu Fa, Fang Liang, and Huang Zuantian agreed. Pan Xian was expressionless, but his heart twitched. He was certain that these 5 sages were definitely Han Ju's lackeys. There was also Li Daokong, who had just gone out, and Heavenly Venerate Xian Du, who had been fawning over Han Ju. The 7 sages were all supporting Han Ju. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate also saw through it, and immediately chose to support Han Ju. Sooner or later, he would have to take sides. He could accept following Han Ju. In any case, the Heavenly Tao couldn't be led by Pan Xian and Heavenly Venerate Xian Du. 8 sages. Together with Han Ju, there were 9 sages. Pan Xian's heart skipped a beat. The situation was not optimistic. He immediately looked at Hanju and asked, "Fellow Taoist Han wants to fight with me?" No matter how scheming he was, he could tell that Hanju was the leader. If he gave in to him, the other sages wouldn't stop him. He began to suspect if Hanju had asked the sages to scheme against him. Hanju said, "You really want it?" Pan Xian said, "Of course. Who are you going to choose? There's no fixed person for the time being. That means no one is suitable on your side. Do you just want to occupy the position first? I recommend the hidden sect disciple Dao Sovereign. Everyone should know his potential." Hanju said calmly, and the sages nodded. Dao Sovereign was once the #1 prodigy in the immortal world. Now that he was a pseudo-sage expert, he was indeed qualified. Pan Xian frowned. The chaotic heavenly road needs sages to guard it. If you insist, send a sage to the chaos. The sages were silent. Hanju also fell silent. Who dared to go to the chaos? They would die after leaving the heavenly Tao. Hanju was afraid of the chaotic deities and couldn't go out. Pan Xian said proudly, "You're timid. Why do you want to fight with me? I'm also thinking for the heavenly Tao. In the future, the heavenly Tao will definitely face stronger enemies, and also need the sages to go to the chaos to open up new worlds. Don't delay the development of the heavenly Tao for the sake of power." Hanju smiled. "In that case, I'll give it to you, but you have to choose someone from the heavenly Tao." Pan Xian said, "Of course." Heavenly Venerate Xiandu added, "The new sage position will be decided by fellow Taoist Pan." Seeing that Hanju had agreed, the other sages naturally had nothing to say. The sage meeting ended. The sages left. Pan Xian invited him to Pango Hall as a guest, and Hanju didn't refuse. The two of them came to the Pango Hall and sat down. Hanju could feel that the Pango Hall had already activated the restriction and could block the prying of sages. Pan Xian sighed heavily. Pretending to be puzzled, Hanju asked, "Fellow Taoist Pan, you just obtained the position. Why are you sighing?" Pan Xian said, "Fellow Taoist Han, I'm older than you and can be considered an old friend. Why don't we call each other brothers? I'm suffering. You should have heard of my previous encounters. Now I look powerful, but I'm being pushed forward without freedom. I want to repay the heavenly Tao, but the sages are always wary of me." He began to complain. Hearing this fellow call himself brother, Hanju couldn't help but narrow his eyes. He hesitated if he should throw Pan Xian into the primordial heavenly prison now. "Brother Han, you must support me in the future. I know that the reason why you protected the heavenly Tao is that you want to obtain the heavenly Tao's protection. I'll protect the heavenly Tao, and the heavenly Tao will protect you. If we join forces, we can definitely reach the great Tao together." Pan Xian said with great ambition. This time, Hanju took the initiative to give him the sage position, allowing him to see hope. If he could rope Hanju in, he would have the final say in the heavenly Tao. Pan Xian was very excited just thinking about it. Hanju asked, "Why do you want to control the heavenly Tao so much? I see that you really don't have the talent to manage it." Pan Xian's face didn't go red, and his heartbeat didn't accelerate. He said, "Only then can I train. But in the end it's a choice. No matter how talented Heavenly Venerate Xiandu is, his master is the father of the deity realm of the ruins of End. I'm different. I'm Panga's descendant. Protecting the heavenly Tao is protecting giant god Pangu." Hanju asked, "What will you do after you unify the heavenly Tao?" "It's time." Pan Xian suppressed his surprise. He felt that he was about to succeed. He wasn't in a hurry to answer. Instead, he thought for a moment and said, "Xiandu's idea of developing the chaos is correct. But if the heavenly Tao wants to truly gain a foothold in the chaos, it still has to find a backer. While developing the heavenly Tao, I will seek a huge backer for the heavenly Tao, a backer that can intimidate the deity realm of the ruins of End. My initial goal is the ancient Great Tao Divine Spirit. Although the Great Tao Divine Spirit is at the same realm as the Great Tao Sages, those ancient Great Tao Divine Spirits all have the power to suppress the Great Tao Sages." Hanju smiled. Pan Xian smiled and asked, "Old brother Han, you agree with me, right?" Hanju suddenly raised his palm and struck him. Pan Xian did not have time to react and instantly froze. His dermic powers were sealed by the great change-sealing palm, and his soul could not escape his body. You! Pan Xian widened his eyes in disbelief. Without another word, Hanju brought him to the Taoist temple of the 100-peak immortal river. Pan Xian was thrown into the primordial heavenly prison. He glared at him, his eyes filled with confusion, fear, and disbelief. He was confused about why Hanju attacked. He was fearful of his strength. He was in disbelief. Why could Hanju directly suppress him? Chapter 706 Great Chaotic Era. Chapter 706 Great Chaotic Era. After returning to the Taoist temple, Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. No one could save Pan Xian now. Hanju faced Pan Xian's gaze and said calmly, "If you want to blame someone, blame what you said just now. Your choice makes me uneasy." Pan Xian gritted his teeth. "Who are you?" At this moment, Hanju's image in his mind became mysterious. More than 200,000 years ago, when he first met Hanju, this child was only an ant. Now that he was at the Freedom Sage realm, Hanju easily suppressed him. What did this mean? This meant that Hanju was at least a great Tao sage. In just 200,000 years, it was impossible for a mortal to cultivate to the great Tao sage realm. There was only one possibility. Hanju was a mighty figure himself. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0TC0M. Pan Xian knew that the great Tao sages liked to use their clones or Dharma idols to reincarnate and set up traps in various corners of the chaos. Hanju was definitely one of them. Facing Pan Xian's question, Hanju smiled and sealed his mouth. Then, he closed his eyes and began another bout of seclusion. In the depths of the chaos, in the Great Tao Tower. After tens of thousands of years of development, the Great Tao Tower had already formed. All kinds of floating islands and buildings that were like stars gathered in a radius of billions of kilometers. In the palace on the first floor of the Great Tao Tower, Zhou Fan and the evil heavenly emperor gathered in the hall. There was no third person. Zhou Fan asked, "Where's Han Tua?" He still cared a lot about this junior. Han Tua was Hanju's son, so he was naturally his junior. The evil heavenly emperor said, "He's trying to attain the Tao." Zhou Fan smiled in satisfaction. "Not bad. If my master knows, he'll be very happy." The evil heavenly emperor smiled. Zhou Fan sized him up and said meaningfully, "Your Majesty, I suddenly can't see through you. Who are you working for now?" The heavenly court's reputation in the dark forbidden zone was becoming greater and greater. Some time ago, the heavenly troops actually brought the inauspicious evil when they fought. This matter had already alarmed the entire chaos, indicating that the heavenly court was already a colossus. Even the great Tao sages in the deity realm of the ruins of End had no choice but to face the evil heavenly emperor. The evil heavenly emperor placed his hands behind his waist. His imperial robe fluttered as he chuckled. "I'm not with anyone. I'm just fighting for my life." Fighting for your life? Zhou Fan was deep in thought. They had already transcended the heavenly Tao and could freely travel through the chaos. They could travel through the past and future and look down on all living beings. Such a realm was something they had never imagined. But even so, they were still trapped. The evil heavenly emperor smiled. "All right, let's not talk about meaningless things. I came to you today to plan for a mysterious domain formed by the corpse of an ancient chaotic fiend celestial. There are great opportunities hidden inside. If my heavenly court eats alone, the losses will definitely be heavy. I'll give you a portion of the benefits. You should have already seen my sincerity from our previous cooperation. Do you want to take action?" Zhou Fan asked. "That mysterious mighty figure also wants to attack?" The evil heavenly emperor nodded. "Without him, I wouldn't dare." "All right, the Great Tao Tower is also participating." Zhou Fan agreed readily. He wasn't confident in the evil heavenly emperor, but in the mysterious mighty figure. He asked curiously, "Who is that mighty figure? Is he related to the inauspicious evil?" The evil heavenly emperor said with a faint smile, "Don't ask about some things. You're only a primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal." If anyone else said this, Zhou Fan would definitely feel humiliated. However, from the evil heavenly emperor's words, Zhou Fan could hear his concern. If he continued asking, he might very well violate the taboo. He was no longer an ignorant mortal in the immortal world. Now he had a certain understanding of the chaos. In the endless chaos, there were indeed many taboos that could not be probed or even spoken. Even a great Tao sage wouldn't violate these taboos. The evil heavenly emperor turned into golden smoke and dissipated, leaving only a sentence. 3,000 years later, bring people to the waning moon star field. I will lead 10 million heavenly troops to wait for you. Zhou Fan narrowed his eyes. He was shocked by the speed of development. These people were sent as fodder. It was not the full strength of the heavenly court. 5,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Hanju opened his eyes. Pan Xian had yet to be enslaved, but he had already lost consciousness and was sitting quietly in the invisible primordial heavenly prison. As expected of an existence at the perfected freedom primordial chaos realm. Wouldn't it take millions of years, or even longer to enslave the chaotic deities? Hanju had this thought, and even started to worry. He believed that as long as he played it safe and was careful, he would be on par with the chaotic deities, or even surpass them. Even without the system, he could continue to grow with everything he had. Of course, he was still grateful to the system. Without the system, he would still be floating in the cycle of reincarnation. How could he pursue the Tao and live forever? Hanju looked outside the Taoist temple. Tao sovereign, Zhao Xinyuan, and Jiang Yi were waiting at the door. After training outside, Tao sovereign returned to cultivate diligently. Zhao Xinyuan and Jiang Yi were the closest to him. After all, they were both prodigies. Hanju's voice floated out. What is it? The three of them had been kneeling for several years. Unable to wait any longer, Jiang Yi was the first to speak. Master, the three of us want to go to the chaos to train. Zhao Xinyuan and Jiang Yi were already at the perfected zenith heaven golden immortal realm, and could become pseudo-sages at any time. However, they suppressed their cultivation levels. It was probably related to Tao Sovereign. Tao Sovereign said, recently, there has been some information from the Chaos Heavenly Road. At the end of the Chaos Heavenly Road is the world of paragons. It's even larger than the immortal world. There are countless planes and secret realms hidden around it. There are countless opportunities. The three of us want to try. Hanju said, the chaos is very dangerous. If anything happens, I won't save you. Think carefully. Zhao Xinyuan chuckled. Master, don't worry. What happened before the previous calamity won't happen. We will definitely be careful. Even if something happens, the three of us have already left our split souls in our respective Taoist temples. At most, we will cultivate again. It wasn't rare for Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals to have such methods. Hanju sent them out. Since they had left a way out, it was good to go out and explore. Hanju still didn't know much about the chaos. It was also a good thing to send disciples to gain information. The future heavenly Tao was definitely not safe. The great chaotic era had already begun. After sending the three of them off, Hanju looked at the emails and continued cultivating. Another 3,000 years passed. Primordial Heavenly Prison has successfully enslaved the target. Pan Xian has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability max. It took him 8,000 years to successfully enslave this fellow. Hanju immediately checked Pan Xian's attributes panel. Pan Xian, perfected of the freedom primordial chaos realm. Panga's descendant, one of the first living beings after creation. He has experienced the immeasurable calamity and roams the mortal world. Afraid of being discovered by the ancient master of calamity, he especially infiltrated the Sword Dao River. Because of your nature, he is interested in you. Current favorability max. Perfected freedom primordial chaos realm. If Hanju helped him, he might be able to create a great Dao sage. However, the great Dao door required one to work hard. Others couldn't help, at least not now. At most, he could talk about his Dao validation experience. At this moment, Pangu has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points, 1 star. Chapter 707 Higher Level Chaos. Chapter 707 Higher Level Chaos. Hanju was stunned when he saw the notification. Pangu, this fellow was indeed not dead. Hanju immediately became nervous. He immediately checked his interpersonal relationships and found Pangu. Panga's portrait was extremely domineering. He was roaring at the sky with a sinister expression. His eyes were filled with deterrence. His black hair was disheveled and looked very ancient. Pangu cultivation unknown. Chaotic fiend celestial, creator of the heavenly Tao, ancestor of all things, fiend celestial slayer. Because you severed the will control he left in Pan Xian, he has developed displeasure towards you. Current hatred points. 1 star so much Khanate providence. Hanju frowned. Panga's cultivation level was unknown, so he was definitely stronger than him. As for how strong, he couldn't say for the time being. In any case, he was no match for Panga now. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0TC0M. He was still too rash. He shouldn't be in such a hurry to enslave Pan Xian. He could completely control him, but it would take some effort. At this moment Pan Xian slowly opened his eyes. Seeing him, he immediately knelt down. Hanju asked, "Have you seen Pangu?" Pan Xian looked up and said in surprise, "Giant god Pangu has long died. How can I have seen him? Even in his inheritance, I can only see his figure and not his true body." Hanju was deep in thought. Where was Pangu? He used the derivation function to deduce. 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? This was already equivalent to the value of a Tao creator, comparable to a chaotic deity. Continue. A notification appeared in front of him. Can't deduce Panga's exact location. He's not alive at the moment. Dead but not completely dead? Hanju continued to ask in his mind. Can Panga threaten me now? No, this time, his lifespan was not deducted. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that Panga was really dead, but his will existed in a form that even the great Tao sages could not understand. No matter what, it was fine as long as Pangu could not threaten Hanju for the time being. Hanju looked at Pan Xian again. Pan Xian knelt very respectfully like a servant. Hanju asked, "Who's the elder brother and younger brother now?" Pan Xian was stunned for a moment before smiling bitterly. "You're my elder brother, and I'm your younger brother. You can call me whatever you want." Hanju was secretly pleased. Who asked you to posture in front of me? He didn't make things difficult for him. That would only lower his status. No matter what, Pan Xian was a freedom sage after all. He should give him face. Don't reveal our relationship when you return. Continue what you did before, but don't help the great Tao divine spirit. In the future, focus on the heavenly Tao. Don't think of a way to extradite any existence in the chaos into the heavenly Tao, understand? Hanju instructed. Pan Xian nodded in agreement. Then, Hanju reminded him again before waving his hand and sending him to the 33rd heaven. Pan Xian arrived in front of his Pango hall. Emperor Shao and Jin Shen appeared. The two sages heaved a sigh of relief when they saw him. The sages had seen Pan Xian inviting Hanju inside, but after that, their auras disappeared. It was extremely strange. Emperor Shao and Jin Shen both knew of Hanju's terrifying achievements. Their fear was deeply rooted, causing them to lose confidence in Pan Xian. Now that Pan Xian had returned, the nervousness in the hearts of the two sages instantly vanished. "Why did you take so long to return?" Jin Shen asked. Pan Xian said expressionlessly, "A mere 8,000 years is considered long? I only discussed the Tao with fellow Taoist Han." He entered Pango Hall. The two sages followed closely behind. On the other side, in the Universal Hall, Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du was deep in thought when he saw that scene. He felt that something was wrong. Pan Xian had changed. He carefully recalled the past. It seemed that the sages who had disappeared with Hanju for a period of time had become extremely respectful to him after returning and listening to him. Could it be that Pan Xian was the same? He shook his head. Pan Xian was a freedom sage. Even a group of great Tao sages in the deity realm of the ruins of Ind couldn't do anything to him. What right did Hanju have to threaten him? In Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's opinion, it was almost impossible to force Pan Xian to submit. However, he still didn't dare to completely deny Hanju's ability to do so. He couldn't understand his growth speed. He decided to observe Pan Xian later. In the Taoist temple, Hanju opened the emails after observing the immortal world. He wondered if anything major had happened in his circle of friends over the years. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and fell into the endless crack of the universe. Your son Han Tua was attacked by the descendants of the Fiend Celestial, X27033827. Your disciple Zhou Fan was attacked by the descendants of the Fiend Celestial X89044483. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor was attacked by an ancient chaotic Fiend Celestial and was severely injured. Your good friend Empress Hutu created a world. The power of reincarnation transformed into all things. Your disciple Dao Sovereign has entered the mysterious mystic realm. Your disciple Zhao Xianyuan has entered the mysterious mystic realm. Your good friend Jiang Yi has entered the mysterious mystic realm. Your disciple Dao Sovereign was attacked by a mysterious existence and was severely injured. The evil Heavenly Emperor was fighting again. Just by reading the emails, he could feel the cruelty of that war. But Hanju was not worried. He believed that the evil Heavenly Emperor would have the last laugh. He continued to look down. As expected, the three brothers led by Dao Sovereign who had gone out earlier began to be beaten up. Apart from these two groups of people, the other friends were all cultivating or seeking opportunities. It was considered calm. After reading the emails, Hanju looked at Xing Hongxian. The fetus was still in gestation, and it was still impossible to predict when he would be born. Hanju suddenly wondered if this kid would never come out. He had no choice but to use the derivation function. I want to know when my youngest son will be born. 50 million years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Unable to be born. The chaos cannot accommodate two primordial fiend celestials. Hanju was stunned. He didn't expect to be right. This kid really couldn't come out. Wait. Could it be that primordial origin's failure was also because of him? Hanju frowned. At this rate, his youngest son would stay in his mother's womb forever? What was the difference between this and being sealed? This was troublesome. Hanju continued to ask in his mind. How can I make the chaos accommodate two primordial fiend celestials? 10 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. 10 times the value of the Tao creator. Hanju's heart twitched. Destroy the current chaos and create a higher level chaos. Hanju frowned. He suddenly recalled the previous deduction of the future. Qin Ling had roared that he wanted to destroy the chaos and open up the primordial world. Could it be his arrangement? It was very likely. The terrifying giant shadow behind the heavenly Tao army should be Hanju himself. I see. Hanju's expression became complicated. He didn't want to advance the process of the great Tao immeasurable calamity. But in that case, his youngest son would still have to stay in Xing Hongshuan's womb for at least 23 billion years. Not to mention his youngest son's feelings. Xing Hongxian probably wouldn't be able to stand it either. Was there no other way? Since it couldn't accommodate two primordial fiend celestials, wouldn't his youngest son be born if he wasn't a primordial fiend celestial? Chapter 708 Mysterious Fellow Taoist Han. Chapter 708 Mysterious Fellow Taoist Han. Hanju frowned as his thoughts ran wild. His idea just now was indeed a way to make his youngest son temporarily lose the primordial fiend celestial's bloodline. He should be able to be born. In that case, it was as if he, the father, was suppressing his son's potential. Why couldn't he give up the primordial fiend celestial bloodline? This thought flashed through Hanju's mind and was quickly abandoned. No way. His son was a primordial fiend celestial and had to grow for countless years. He was the primordial fiend celestial now and could protect everyone around him. Hanju wasn't stupid and wouldn't cause trouble for himself. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, D0TC0M. Was there any bloodline higher than the primordial fiend celestial? Hanju immediately asked in his mind. If my bloodline surpasses the primordial fiend celestial, can my son be born? 10 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes, the chaos only rejects the primordial chaos, but there is no bloodline stronger than the primordial fiend celestial at the moment. At least, the system has not encountered any karma of that level. This line of words contained a lot of information. Could it be that the system had encountered the primordial fiend celestial before? In other words, the system might have come from an even older era than the chaos. Hanju couldn't imagine it. He didn't ask anymore. If he continued asking, he wouldn't be able to stop. 10 quadrillion years was nothing to him. But it couldn't withstand the consumption of asking 100,000 questions. Hanju looked at Xing Hongxian again. He would make a decision when she couldn't stand her current state, and looked for him. Currently, the existence of her youngest son could still help Xing Hongxian cultivate. It was a good thing. Before becoming a human, it was not bad to be a cultivation device. Hanju thought silently. He suddenly thought of a possibility. If he removed his youngest son's bloodline, causing him to be born amidst the expectations of countless people, but ultimately disappointed them with inferior talent, wouldn't he fall from grace as the strongest genius of the hidden sect? Wasn't this a fucking fantasy novel? Hanju was actually looking forward to it. Cough cough. It was better to wait and see. If possible, he wouldn't do that. Otherwise, the child would suffer a lot. Hanju shook his head and laughed. Then he slowly closed his eyes. At the edge of the immortal world, a golden path extended from the top of a peak into the depths of the dark forbidden zone. This golden path was 10,000 feet wide and grand. One could see some cultivators coming and going. When they passed by, they would greet each other warmly. After training in the chaos, when they returned to the heavenly Tao, the cultivators felt like they had returned to their hometown, so they became enthusiastic. It had to be said that Pan-Xian had indeed contributed greatly. The appearance of the chaotic heavenly road had indeed played the role of uniting the cultivators with higher cultivation levels in the heavenly Tao. Pan-Xian suddenly landed on the golden light path. Behind him was Jin Shun. The two sages retracted their sage aura and suppressed their cultivation to the zenith heaven golden immortal realm before walking forward. On this trip to the chaos, I'll also check the chaotic heavenly road. You should be more serious and see if anything is lacking, Pan-Xian instructed in a low voice. Jin Shun nodded. He had a strange expression. He felt that Pan-Xian had changed. He had become more stable and responsible, like heavenly venerate Xian Du in the past. Pan-Xian did not care if the chaotic heavenly road was perfected. He only wanted to fight for power. Could it be that the immeasurable merit divine might heavenly sage had enlightened him? For a time, Hanju's image in Jin Shun's heart suddenly improved. In his opinion, Hanju was the true perfect Tao pursuer. He was indifferent to fame and fortune, and cultivated in seclusion every day. However, when the heavenly Tao was in trouble, he never avoided it. He always stood up and turned the tide. Of course, worship was worship. Jin Shun had no intention of joining the hidden sect. The hidden sect was already powerful enough. Even if he joined, it would be very difficult for him to gain Hanju's trust. Pan-Xian was different. There were too few people around him. He was his right-hand man. The two sages strolled forward, but each step covered 10,000 miles. Soon, they entered the dark forbidden zone. Looking back, they could no longer see the immortal world. The golden path was surrounded by darkness. It was extremely dark with no light in sight. It was extremely oppressive. 3 people flew over and complained to each other. It's all your fault. What information did you find? There's no opportunity there. It's complete purgatory. That's right. Tao Sovereign, can you be more cautious in the future? Nonsense, it's all because of the two of you. The moment you entered, you wandered around like ferocious dogs and triggered the restriction. It was Tao Sovereign, Zhao Xinyuan and Jiang Yi. Their auras were a little weak. It was obvious that they had just experienced a fierce battle. Pan-Xian and Jin Shun recognized the 3 of them. After all, the sages paid attention to the hidden sect. Tao Sovereign and the other 2 were the faces of the hidden sect disciples. They were famous before entering the hidden sect. Tao Sovereign and the other 2 could not see the sages' true appearances. They could only see the fog on their faces, so they did not stop and brushed past them. In the chaotic heavenly road, they often encountered mighty figures who hid their true appearance. So Tao Sovereign and the other 2 were not surprised. After the 2 sides left each other, Jin Shun sighed. The hidden sect's foundation is really strong. Those three are actually all pseudo-sages. Zhao Xianyuan and Jiang Yi had also become pseudo-sages in the chaos. Pan Xian said casually, "Fellow Taoist Han indeed has good taste. The heavenly Tao is lucky to have him." Jin Shin understood what he meant and asked cautiously, "You and fellow Taoist Han?" "Nothing. After the Tao discussion, my understanding of him has deepened. Fellow Taoist Han will not be our enemy. He will only be our helper," Pan Xian said ambiguously. Jin Shin's eyes lit up. Could it be that Pan Xian and Han Ju had already established a friendly relationship, or even an alliance? If that was the case, it would be easier for them to survive in the heavenly Tao in the future. They wouldn't be stopped by other sages. The more Jin Shin thought about it, the more he felt that his future was bright. At this moment, Pan Xian suddenly turned around, startling him. Following the two sages' gaze was only darkness. They couldn't see anything. "What's wrong?" Jin Shin asked. Pan Xian said expressionlessly, "Something is staring at us." Jin Shin asked, "An auspicious evil?" Pan Xian shook his head. Jin Shin was surprised. Wasn't the invisible evil existence in the dark forbidden zone the inauspicious evil? Pan Xian said, "Let's continue walking and see how long this thing will follow me." Jin Shin nodded. They maintained their previous pace and continued forward. In the blood-colored starry sky, countless limbs floated in the void. A dilapidated pavilion floated among countless meteors. Covered in blood, Han Tua lay on the roof, panting heavily and looking dispirited. Etienne suddenly landed and sat beside him. He panted and asked, "Brat, are you done?" Han Tua rolled his eyes at him. "Aren't you the same? Why are you faking it?" Etienne looked into the distance. Two terrifying huge shadows were fighting in the depths of the void. Boundless fog surged violently, filled with pressure. It was as if this blood-colored starry sky could shatter at any time. Fear appeared in Etienne's eyes. The difference was too great. He didn't even dare to approach the main battlefield. Chapter 709 Panga's Will. Chapter 709 Panga's Will. Etienne turned to look at Han Tua and asked, "Do you think we can return alive this time?" Unlike in the past, they were not suppressed. Instead, they had been fighting nonstop. After thousands of years of battle, even Etienne, who was as strong as a pseudo-sage, was about to collapse. He had never experienced such a long battle. Furthermore, he had to use his full strength every day, or he would die here. Boom! The space beside the dilapidated pavilion suddenly shattered. A huge mouth flew out. It was extremely huge, as if it could devour a planet in one bite. In front of it, Etienne and Han Tua were like dust. They were so frightened that they immediately dodged. Han Tua held his divine spear and glared at it. This was a chaotic beast. It had a head like a whale, and a body like a snake lizard. It had no eyes and dozens of sharp mountain-like teeth in its bloody mouth. The bloody aura it spat out was visible to the naked eye. Above the head of this chaotic beast stood a figure in black and sinister heavy armor. He wore a helmet, so his true appearance could not be seen. He held a long sword burning with black flames, and slashed at Han Tua and Etienne. This sword slashed out countless ghosts and vengeful spirits. It was like a black torrent that drowned out everything. It was unstoppable. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0TC0M. Han Tua raised his spear and stabbed. The spear was like a dragon, tearing through the black torrent. Etienne roared angrily. His figure quickly rose and transformed into a 10,000 feet tall body. He punched out like another chaotic ferocious beast, his violent aura shaking the void. Han Tua and Etienne, who had just caught their breaths, fell into a bitter battle again. This was only a reflection of the battlefield. The other heavenly troops were also suffering. In the depths of the void, Zhou Fan held the Great Tao Tower and kept casting. The Great Tao Tower spun at high speed in his palm. Countless wondrous techniques appeared. Golden lotuses scattered forward. The golden rain was like arrows, and the lightning was like blades. Following his gaze, a terrifying figure of unknown height could be seen. His body was surrounded by a vast fog that covered most of his body. The wonders of the Great Tao Tower landed on him, but they did not cause him any damage. This is a chaotic fiend celestial? Its corpse alone is so powerful. Zhou Fan muttered to himself, his eyes filled with fear. The terrifying figure in front of him was the corpse of the ancient chaotic fiend celestial. It had no consciousness and only had combat instincts. It treated its descendants differently and only attacks all living beings other than them. The Heavenly Court and the Great Tao Tower had been fighting here for thousands of years and had suffered heavy losses. Most importantly, they couldn't retreat at all. The blood-colored starry sky was a special array formation that sealed the void. One could only enter and not leave. Zhou Fan could only place his hopes on the other mighty figure that the chaotic fiend celestial was fighting. That figure was completely black and looked even more terrifying, the inauspicious divine emperor. In the thousands of years of fighting, Zhou Fan learned the identity of the inauspicious divine emperor from the evil heavenly emperor, the ruler of the inauspicious evil, a terrifying existence comparable to a great Tao sage. Even so, the inauspicious divine emperor couldn't easily defeat the chaotic fiend celestial. A huge black hand suddenly descended from above and grabbed him. Zhou Fan struggled crazily. On the other side of the battlefield, the evil heavenly emperor was surrounded by countless black-armored figures. It was extremely difficult. Why can't we kill all these fiend celestial soldiers? The evil heavenly emperor frowned, his heart filled with anxiety. He had underestimated this chaotic fiend celestial. Is it really going to come to that? The evil heavenly emperor's eyes flickered. He was in a dilemma. 2,000 years passed. The Book of Misfortune was finally upgraded successfully. It had been fusing for 10,000 years. It was really not easy. Book of Misfortune has been upgraded successfully. It has been upgraded from a Freedom Supreme treasure to a Great Tao Numinous treasure. Seeing this line of words, Hanju immediately took out the Book of Misfortune from the primordial world. It wasn't easy for it to level up successfully. Should he kill an enemy to liven things up? At the Great Tao realm, and with the Dharma treasure of the Great Tao level, he could at least curse a Great Tao sage to death. Hanju thought for a moment and dismissed the thought. There was no need. In any case, his enemies had given up on plotting against the Heavenly Tao recently. Why should he break the peace? Moreover, he had previously made up his mind not to change the process of the Great Tao immeasurable calamity. Hanju put away the Book of Misfortune and was about to continue cultivating. At this moment, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's voice entered his ears. Fellow Taoist Han, come to the Universal Hall quickly. Hanju immediately headed to the Universal Hall. Only Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was in the hall. He was meditating with a frown and a dark expression. Hanju came in front of him and asked, "What is it?" There were no powerful enemies near the Heavenly Tao. The immortal world was also peaceful. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du took a deep breath and said, "Things are not good. Recently, the providence of the Heavenly Tao has changed drastically. It's not increasing or becoming weaker, but the providence has descended on the immortal world and the myriad worlds. I've asked Feng Liang, and he's also puzzled. He can't figure out why the Heavenly Tao is like this." Hanju couldn't help but look at the Heavenly Tao. In the eyes of a great Tao sage, the Heavenly Tao was a ball of qi. It wrapped around the yellow qi of the immortal world and the myriad worlds, protecting the interior of the Heavenly Tao. Hanju narrowed his eyes. He suddenly saw threads of light appear in the Heavenly Tao and shoot into the myriad worlds. Most of them landed in the immortal world. What are those? Hanju secretly deduced, but he couldn't figure out the origin of those lights. At this moment, lines of words suddenly appeared in front of him. Detected that Panga's will is controlling the Heavenly Tao. A large number of his descendants will be born. You have the following choices. 1. Stop it immediately. You will become Panga's mortal enemy. You can obtain a supreme treasure and a great Tao fragment. 2. Don't stop it for the time being. This matter can increase the providence of the Heavenly Tao. Watch the development of the Heavenly Tao, and you can obtain a great Tao fragment and a creation spirit stone. Panga's will? Hanju frowned. He didn't expect that just after he subdued Pan Xian, Panga would create a large number of them. What a good move. There was no need to become Panga's mortal enemy. After all, Panga was only a little unhappy with him now. Moreover, this matter could increase the providence of the Heavenly Tao, so why not? More importantly, he would have another creation spirit stone, which was another chaotic fiend celestial. Hanju immediately chose the second option. You choose not to stop it for the time being, and watch the development of the heavenly Tao. You will obtain a great Tao fragment and a creation spirit stone. Hanju said, since I can't see through it, let's wait and see. The heavenly Tao can't destroy itself, right? Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du felt that it made sense and nodded. Seeing that everything was fine, Hanju wanted to leave. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du suddenly asked, fellow Taoist Han, Pan Xan has changed recently. He even specially set off to perfect the chaotic heavenly road. What do you think? Hanju turned around and glanced at him. Isn't this a good thing? For some reason, facing Hanju's gaze, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du inexplicably panicked. This was a feeling he had never felt when facing him in the past. He inexplicably thought of his teacher Laozi. When he faced Laozi, he also uncontrollably panicked. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, it's indeed a good thing, but I'm worried. After all, Pan Xan often goes to the chaos. But I'm relieved if it's fellow Taoist Han's arrangement. Chapter 710 Powerful Second Tao Field. Chapter 710 Powerful Second Tao Field. Hanju stared at him and asked with a faint smile. Then, does fellow Taoist Xian Du want me to arrange it? How could he not understand the meaning behind Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's words? If it was in the past, he would definitely be afraid, but he was already a great Tao sage. He might even be Laozi's match. Moreover, as long as he didn't see the primordial heavenly prison with his own eyes, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du would at most think that Hanju knew some kind of coercion method. As their eyes met, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du suddenly felt a chill down his spine. Crap. He had been too rash. Although he was on good terms with Hanju and chatted happily, it was only on the surface. Once Hanju felt danger, this fellow would definitely kill him. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, D0T, C0M. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du hurriedly said, I was just asking. If I offended you, fellow Taoist Han, please don't mind me. Hanju smiled. Fellow Taoist Xian Du, don't be nervous. After all, you and I both want the heavenly Tao's betterment, right? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du immediately took the opportunity and agreed. That's right. The heavenly Tao is our common and most important goal. Hanju disappeared from the hall. After Heavenly Venerate Xian Du confirmed that Hanju had left, he heaved a sigh of relief. He was filled with fear. He had indeed been reckless just now. I should continue to maintain my previous attitude. As long as Hanju can help the heavenly Tao, why should I investigate his secrets? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was relieved after thinking it through. He felt that there was something wrong with his Tao heart, and his selfish desires were swelling. This was not a good thing. He began to meditate and recite scriptures to refine his Tao heart. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. After returning to the Taoist temple, Hanju took out the creation spirit stone and began to choose the fiend celestial qi. After thinking about it, he decided to create the flesh fiend celestial. Yes, if he was nurtured as a tank, he would definitely be the vanguard of the fiend celestial army in the future. He wouldn't be useless. After the creation spirit stone fused with the fiend celestial qi of the flesh fiend celestial, Hanju went to the second Tao field and released the traversal fiend celestial and the fog fiend celestial. The two fiend celestials transformed into human forms. They looked sinister and terrifying, but they were actually still children. Hanju asked Morongqi to receive them. Being the first to transform into a fiend celestial, Morongqi had already become a pseudo-sage. The Crimson Fox, who represented the giant fiend celestial, was the same. The heavenly constellation fiend celestial had also become a pseudo-sage and was stronger than the two. The current second Tao field already had the sage Great Loose Heaven, 4 pseudo-sages, and 3 Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals. Pseudo-sages were Morongqi, the Crimson Fox, the heavenly constellation fiend celestial, and Guanbubi. Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals were the Time Fiend Celestial, the Traversal Fiend Celestial, and the Fog Fiend Celestial. Yang Du had just stepped into the deity realm not long ago. He was still far from becoming a pseudo-sage, in exchanging for the chaotic fiend celestial bloodline. There was also the Dao field guard Dong Zhuo, who had transformed from Sage Li Muyi. Putting aside the Dao field guards, the current second Dao field was actually stronger than the main Dao field. The main Dao field only had many disciples, few pseudo-sages, and even fewer sages. Hanju was quite satisfied. He had to hide his strongest strength in the dark, and only kill the enemy when necessary. The arrival of the Traversal Fiend Celestial and the Fog Fiend Celestial made the second Dao field lively. The other Fiend Celestials who were cultivating rushed over. Hanju returned to the main Dao field and continued cultivating. In order to subdue Pan-Xian, he had not been in seclusion for 5,000 years. He wasn't used to it. Hurry up and do a 5,000-year process. Stabilize the Dao heart. 973 years later, a line of words suddenly appeared in front of Hanju, who was meditating. The evil heavenly emperor sent you a dream. Do you accept? Hanju opened his eyes and frowned, very unhappy. You interrupted my cultivation again. However, the other party was the evil heavenly emperor, so Hanju couldn't flare up. If it were anyone else, Hanju would directly take out the Book of Misfortune and teach them a lesson. The evil heavenly emperor sent you a dream. Do you accept? The evil heavenly emperor sent you a dream. Do you accept? The evil heavenly emperor began to spam. Hanju chose to accept it. It was just a dream. There was no danger. Even if there was danger, Hanju had a way to escape. After all, he was already a great Dao sage. In the dream was a blood-colored starry sky. Figures could be seen fighting everywhere. There was no lack of ferocious beasts as huge as Buzhou Divine Mountain. Their auras were terrifying. Hanju saw the heavenly troops, but most of them had already turned into corpses. The evil heavenly emperor appeared in front of him with a solemn expression and said in a low voice, "This is my current situation. I'm afraid I've failed in this battle. If you have anything to say to your son, I'll tell him for you. I'll also apologize for not taking good care of him." Hanju frowned. Is there no way to escape? The evil heavenly emperor shook his head. I can't escape. My body has already been killed. It's only because my soul is in a special array formation that I have the chance to visit you in your dreams and settle the aftermath. Hanju remained silent. He suspected that the evil heavenly emperor was asking him to attack. That's not right. How did the evil heavenly emperor know that he had become a great Dao sage? Unless the evil heavenly emperor was also a great Dao sage. Or if there was a great Dao sage who guided him like this. Hanju silently recorded everything around him and said, Tell Han Tua that everything is fate. Even if he dies, he shouldn't die in vain. With that, he removed the dream. After his consciousness returned to reality, Hanju asked in his mind, Who instigated the evil heavenly emperor to visit me in my dreams? He had calculated it himself and could not deduce it. He could only rely on the system. All along, Hanju was already used to guessing everything with conspiracy theories to prevent any accidents. 200 billion years of lifespan will be consumed. Do you want to continue? Continue. Indeed, the evil heavenly emperor was not worth this price. A line of words appeared in front of him. Great Dao Concealment Fiend Celestial. Perfected Great Dao Primordial Chaos Realm. Transcendent Dao Expert, Chaotic Fiend Celestial. It was him. Hanju remembered that when he went to the depths of the chaos to find the Great Dao of extreme origin, he had seen the Great Dao Concealment Fiend Celestial. Not only that, but the Great Dao Concealment Fiend Celestial was also among the Fiend Celestial Dharma idols he grasped. So he was the evil heavenly emperor's backing. No wonder the evil heavenly emperor rose so quickly. Hanju frowned and fell into deep thought. The other party had instigated the evil heavenly emperor to visit him in his dreams. He definitely wanted him to take action. He couldn't go to the chaos. However, facing a transcendent Dao expert, there was no point in hiding his cultivation. All the great Dao sages knew that Hanju had already attained the great Dao. In that case, he would attack. It was only right to save his son, but Hanju wouldn't go personally. He moved to the 33rd heaven and looked at the dark forbidden zone. He began to search for the environment in the dream. His sage sense swept through the dark forbidden zone and spread into the depths of the chaos. Great Tao sages could see the chaos with a thought. As Han Ju searched, he pinched his fingers to deduce Han Tuo's aura. The two of them had bloodline karma, so it was easy to find. At this moment, sages appeared around Han Ju, thinking that something was wrong. However, Han Ju ignored them and focused on searching. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du also came. All the sages looked at him. He had no choice but to bite the bullet and ask, "Fellow Taoist Han, what are you looking at?" Han Ju ignored him, making him a little embarrassed. The sages became even more nervous. Could it be that a powerful enemy was attacking? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du also thought of this. The awkwardness was instantly replaced by worry. An existence that could alarm Han Ju was definitely very strong, and was not something they could deal with. Chapter 7:11 Strength that overturns logic. Chapter 7:11 Strength that overturns logic. Han Ju's sage sense quickly searched in the chaos and constantly covered the universe and planes. He observed everything along the way at an incomprehensible speed. Countless images flashed through his mind. After about a minute, Han Ju finally found the mysterious domain where Han Tuo was. This domain was sealed by a mysterious and powerful restriction. No wonder the evil heavenly emperor said that he couldn't escape. Han Ju's eyes narrowed. He raised his right hand and pointed his index finger in Han Tuo's direction. A terrifying aura spread out, shocking the sages. They looked at him in shock. How terrifying! Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was scared out of his wits. This aura. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, D0TC0M. He instantly thought of his teacher. His previous sensation was true. Han Ju was really as powerful as his teacher. No wonder he could always easily kill the enemy every time he attacked. So he was a great Tao sage. The other sages didn't think of this. They only stared at Han Ju in awe. Li Daokong, Fang Liang, Huang Zuantian, and the other sages enslaved by the primordial heavenly prison all looked at Han Ju in admiration. Sure Dudao's eyes also flashed with surprise. What realm was Han Ju at? Han Ju's index finger suddenly shot out a sword chi, and instantly rushed into the dark forbidden zone, disappearing without a trace. Heaven Earth Mystic Yellow World Piercing Sword Finger. Every time Han Ju broke through, he would increase his sword Tao mystical powers. This mystical power also increased to the Great Tao level. Of course, it only had the power of the Great Tao, and didn't have the profundities of the Great Tao mystical power itself. Han Ju specially used the Dharma idol fusion technique to gather the power of many Dharma idols and fused them into the Heaven-Earth Mystic Yellow World Piercing Sword Finger. Among them, it included the Traversal Fiend Celestial, the Space-Splitting Fiend Celestial, the Destruction Fiend Celestial, the Time Fiend Celestial, the Space Fiend Celestial, the Strength Fiend Celestial, and so on. This attack had to penetrate the mysterious spatial restriction and give the evil heavenly emperor and the others a way to escape. In the blood-colored starry sky, the evil heavenly emperor, Han Tuo, Etian, Zhou Fan, and dozens of generals gathered on a huge rock. A huge circle of light wrapped around them and helped them resist the attacks from all directions. They stared at the battle between the inauspicious divine emperor and the chaotic fiend celestial in the distance. The descendants of the chaotic fiend celestial were densely packed. More and more of them crawled onto the body of the inauspicious divine emperor, like ants eating an elephant. The scene was extremely terrifying. The evil heavenly emperor sighed and looked at Han Tuo. "I've already visited your father in his dreams. I asked him to say one last thing to you. He hopes that you won't die too cowardly." Hearing this, Han Tuo's expression changed. The fear and despair in his eyes immediately disappeared. Han Ju's words seemed to inject the last bit of strength into him, making him feel refreshed. Etian looked at him enviously. He still had his family to entrust him with before he died. This was what he yearned for the most, and was the most impossible thing. Also standing up as if he was on steroids, Zhou Fan roared. "That's right. My master is right. We chose this path. Since we want to fight, we'll die in battle. How can we wait for death here? If you want to die, die exhausted instead of waiting for the enemy to tear us apart." The generals and heavenly generals of the Great Tao Tower were stimulated. They stood up and roared to encourage themselves. The current situation was already a dead end. It was impossible for anyone to save them. Han Tuo's father was far away in the heavenly Tao, so it was even more impossible for him to come and save him. The heavenly Tao was so far away. Even a pseudo-sage might not be able to find the way to the heavenly Tao. The evil heavenly emperor was also encouraged by them. He thought of Hanju's words and felt that they were directed at him. The reason why he sent a dream to Hanju was not to seek help. He originally wanted the great Tao concealing fiend celestial to save Han Tuo. At least he wouldn't let Hanju down. However, the great Tao concealing fiend celestial was helpless. He said that Hanju had grasped a summoning mystical power and might be able to save his son himself. Unfortunately, Hanju's words meant that he couldn't save his son either. He would die anyway. Then he would die a spectacular death. The evil heavenly emperor suddenly stood up. Dragon Chi erupted and transformed into 9 golden dragons that broke through the circle of light. This time, their last defense was gone, and they could only fight to the death. Children of the heavenly court, I've wronged you. I can only die with you. The evil heavenly emperor's voice resounded throughout the starry sky. The eyes of the heavenly troops turned red. They didn't blame the evil heavenly emperor. Instead, they had no regrets. In every battle, the evil heavenly emperor would follow them. He never watched from the back and was never afraid of death. They did not regret following such a master. Kill, 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 the heavenly troops shouted in unison. Although there were not many of them, they were extremely infectious. The generals of the Great Tao Tower were also stimulated. They all had the heart to die without regrets. Zhou Fan took out the Great Tao Tower, and it quickly rose. At this moment, a terrifying pressure descended, causing the shouts to instantly stop. The fighting and auspicious divine emperor and chaotic fiend celestial suddenly stopped as if the scene had frozen. They turned around and looked behind the evil heavenly emperor and the others. Sensing their gazes, the evil heavenly emperor and the others were all frightened. Facing the gaze of the great Tao sage, they could not withstand it. Boom! The evil heavenly emperor, Zhou Fan, Han Tuo, Tian, and the others heard a deafening roar from behind. They subconsciously wanted to turn around, but before they could see anything, a terrifying sword chi flashed past their heads and attacked the chaotic fiend celestial with a domineering aura. All the fiend celestial soldiers along the way turned into dust by the sword chi. The evil heavenly emperor and the others widened their eyes as they watched the sword chi pierce through the chaotic fiend celestial's body. The blood-colored starry sky seemed to be torn apart by the sword chi, splitting the scene in front of them into 2. Shocking. Spectacular. They were all dumbfounded, their minds blank. The evil heavenly emperor reacted the fastest. He seemed to have thought of something and suddenly turned around. A huge black hole appeared behind him, connecting to another void. Run! The restriction is broken. The evil heavenly emperor roared angrily, waking everyone up. They turned around and rushed into the black hole, quickly leaving the blood-colored starry sky. The evil heavenly emperor looked back. The inauspicious divine emperor took advantage of the chaotic fiend celestial's injuries and immediately attacked. That sword chi. The evil heavenly emperor revealed a look of disbelief. A bold thought appeared in his mind, making him exclaim in his heart, "How is that possible?" It was Hanju. It was Hanju's aura. How could he be so powerful? He broke through the restriction that even the great Tao concealment fiend celestial could not break with a single strike, and even injured the chaotic fiend celestial? The evil heavenly emperor felt that his understanding was subverted by Hanju again. The first time was because of Hanju's talent. This time, it was overturned by Hanju's strength. The others were very excited after surviving the calamity. Tian couldn't help but curse. Damn it! We can escape even in this situation? How many times has it been? Your Majesty, the mighty figure backing you is too strong. He's simply omnipotent. The evil heavenly emperor smiled bitterly. It was not the mighty figure behind him. It was clearly. The evil heavenly emperor couldn't help but look at Han Tuo. Han Tuo felt his gaze and his eyelids twitched. Could it be? Chapter 712 Shock. Surprise. Chapter 712 Shock. Surprise. Could it be my father? How is that possible? He's stronger than the chaotic fiend celestial? Han Tuo was shocked and roared in his heart. The impact of this possibility was too strong. It surpassed surprise. He was so shocked that he forgot his surprise. Han Tuo looked at the evil heavenly emperor again, but the latter had already retracted his gaze. However, Han Tuo would never forget the evil heavenly emperor's gaze. It was definitely not an illusion. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0TC0M. He wasn't immortal. How could he be mistaken? Just now, the evil heavenly emperor was looking at him. His gaze was extremely complicated. It was filled with surprise, disbelief, confusion and resentment. Han Tuo couldn't accurately read the evil heavenly emperor's eyes, but he firmly believed that it was related to the sword chi just now. When Zhou Fan heard Etion's words, he was also excited. He looked at the evil heavenly emperor and said excitedly, "Your Majesty, are you still hiding it? Tell us who is it so that we can know who our benefactor is." The evil heavenly emperor had a complicated expression. He tried his best to adjust his emotions and gritted his teeth. "If I'm not wrong, the sword chi just now should be from your master, Tuor's father, the sect master of the hidden sect Hanju." Zhou Fan widened his eyes. The others were also shocked. Because of Han Tuo and Zhou Fan, they often heard of Hanju. Wasn't he a heavenly Dao sage? How could he support them? That sword chi just now came from the heavenly Dao. Impossible. How far away was that? Everyone was shocked and hurriedly abandoned this thought. Could it be that Hanju was already nearby? This was the only possibility. "Master, where are you?" Zhou Fan shouted excitedly. He had the same guess as the others, thinking that Hanju was nearby. After Han Tuo learned the truth, he heaved a sigh of relief. His emotions were as complicated as the evil heavenly emperor. It was really his father. Etion looked at him strangely and muttered, "So the backing of the heavenly court is not because of his majesty, but because of you." He was very puzzled. He used to think that Han Tuo was an orphan like him. In the end, he was the only orphan. Han Tuo did not reply. His mood was also a mess. Etion's words made him understand that the previous times he had escaped danger were all because of his father. Although his father did not care about him on the surface, he always stood up for him at critical moments. The more Han Tuo thought about it, the more he felt that he was not a good person. He had yet to repay his father for raising him and giving birth to him. Occasionally, he would blame his father for not taking care of him. The evil heavenly emperor did not say anything else, and quickly left with everyone. Heavenly Dao outside the 33rd heaven. Hanju put down his right hand after seeing that the evil heavenly emperor and the others were out of danger. The sages heaved a sigh of relief when they felt his aura dissipate. Li Daokong couldn't help but ask, "Sect Master, how's the situation?" Hanju looked at them and smiled. "It's nothing. It's just a private matter. I was busy saving my son just now, and didn't have time to answer everyone. Disperse. The heavenly Dao is not in danger." Save his son? The sages were stunned. They all knew that Hanju had a son named Han Tuo. He had long left the heavenly Dao. Could it be that he had just passed by the heavenly Dao? Why didn't they capture it? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du and Heavenly Venerate Wufa thought of something, and their expressions changed slightly. Legend had it that great Dao sages could cross the chaos to attack. Hanju was a great Dao sage. Hanju disappeared. Sect Master Tianju shook his head and laughed. If fellow Taoist Pan was here, I wonder what his expression would be. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate smiled. He definitely won't dare to be arrogant anymore. Fellow Taoist Han's aura just now was much stronger than Pan Xian's. The other sages nodded. They had seen the battle between Pan Xian and Divine Lord Peacock back then. It was indeed terrifying, but compared to Hanju just now, it was still much inferior. Sure Dudao pondered. For some reason, he felt that Hanju was related to the Dark Forbidden Lord. It was very likely that Hanju was the Dark Forbidden Lord. How could such a powerful existence be hidden in the heavenly Dao? Of course, he was only guessing. In any case, he was already following the Dark Forbidden Lord. It was good if Hanju was the Dark Forbidden Lord. At least, it was not a loss to get close to the hidden sect. Actually, it's a good thing that he didn't see it. Heavenly Venerate Wufa suddenly smiled. Seeing his smile, the sages felt a chill. This fellow was too vicious. Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du shook his head and left. Hanju's strength made him feel that he should re-evaluate the Heavenly Tao. Perhaps the Heavenly Tao could increase its pace of expansion. After returning to the Taoist temple, Hanju stared at the evil Heavenly Emperor and the others. After confirming that they were really out of danger, he retracted his gaze. He saw the inauspicious Divine Emperor and the chaotic Fiend Celestial. Both of them were very strong, especially that chaotic Fiend Celestial. Even if it did not have a soul, it could still resist the inauspicious Divine Emperor, and even faintly gain the upper hand. The chaos is really full of hidden talents. Hanju sighed. His attention landed on the Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial next. The Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial wanted to lure him out. It was unknown if it was a friend or foe. Hanju couldn't be bothered to calculate. He had no grudge with the Great Tao Concealing Fiend Celestial, and it was the evil Heavenly Emperor's backing. There was no reason for it to be his enemy. Continue cultivating. Hanju closed his eyes. This time, he had to cultivate for 5,000 years, uninterrupted. It was useless even if the Heavenly Emperor came. No one can stop my determination. 5,000 years later, Hanju opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally entered seclusion for a full 5,000 years. Awesome. However, the increase in cultivation was too slow. Hanju began to hesitate. Should he raise the threshold of seclusion to 10,000 years? His eyes narrowed as Li Xian'eo appeared in front of him. Li Xian'eo had been waiting outside for more than 1,000 years and had left several times. Seeing Hanju, Li Xian'eo couldn't help but ask, "Sect Master, why has your seclusion period changed?" Hanju said, "There was a delay earlier. You can start calculating from today." Li Xian'eo nodded. He did not dare to continue asking. After all, he was a subordinate. How could he blame the Sect Master? He said, "Sect Master, I want to bring out the prodigies I sent in previously. I plan to bring them to the chaotic heavenly road." He began to talk about his plan. After Hanju heard this, he said, "All right, but you have to be careful. Don't forget the name of the hidden sect. Don't be rash and bully the weak. Don't let the hidden sect become a crazy sect." Li Xian'eo's expression was solemn. He seemed to have thought of something and said seriously, "Sect Master is right. I will definitely manage it strictly." Seeing his expression, Hanju guessed the truth. However, it was enough to remind him. How could there be a force that didn't make mistakes? It was good that he could change it. An hour later, Li Xian'eo went to gather the prodigies. Qin Ling was also among them. Hanju waved his hand and sent them out. After leaving the 100-peak immortal river, the geniuses were all in a daze. One of them sighed. "This spirit chi is really not comfortable." The others echoed, "That's right. The spirit chi of the hidden sect Tao field is too abundant. I'm a little regretful. Haha, it's not like we won't come back in the future. In that case, our hidden sect is the sect with the strongest foundation. Just in terms of spirit chi, how can the entire immortal world compare?" Hearing the words of the geniuses, Li Xian'eo shook his head and laughed. As he led them forward, his gaze landed on Qin Ling. He was still looking forward to this genius, who was under his senior. He wouldn't have known if he had not seen it. He was shocked now. Chapter 713 Tao Validation. Chapter 713 Tao Validation. 5 Mystic Divine Origin. Qin Ling's cultivation level had actually increased so quickly. If he stayed in the 100-peak immortal river for a while longer, wouldn't he become a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal? Li Xian'eo was secretly shocked, and even a little jealous of Li Daokong. His senior brother always surpassed him, be it accepting disciples or achievements. Li Xian'eo quickly adjusted his emotions and waved at Qin Ling, gesturing for him to come over. The two of them chatted as they flew. This scene fell into the eyes of the other geniuses. They knew that Li Xian'eo wanted to focus on nurturing Qin Ling. They were only envious, and did not feel that it was unfair. Qin Ling's potential was indeed domineering. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, D0T, C0M. Qin Ling was very respectful to Li Xianao. After all, he was also the junior of Grandmaster Li Daokong. After the geniuses left, Han Ju began to check his emails. Your disciple Ji Xianxian has entered the dark forbidden zone. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor has obtained the inheritance of a mysterious mighty figure. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your son Han Tua devoured the chaotic Fian Celestial's blood, and his bloodline mutated. Your good friend Pan Xian was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock was attacked by your enemy, the Curse Fiend Celestial. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock has comprehended a karma mystical power. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your descendant Han Yu has stepped onto the chaotic heavenly road. Your disciple Dao Sovereign was attacked by an inauspicious evil, X7389320. Your disciple Zhao Xianyuan was attacked by an inauspicious evil, X8023449. Your good friend Jiang Yi was attacked by an inauspicious evil, X9022175. Could the chaotic Fiend Celestial's blood that Han Tua had absorbed be the corpse of the previous chaotic Fiend Celestial? They still dared to retaliate? Could it be that the great Dao Concealment Fiend Celestial had attacked? Han Ju was secretly surprised. But the evil Heavenly Emperor didn't visit him in his dreams, which meant there was no danger. He continued reading and saw Dao Sovereign and the other two getting beaten up again. For some reason, Han Ju didn't feel sorry. Instead he gloated. Who asked you to be arrogant? It's not that easy to survive outside. The emails behind were mostly about various opportunities. Han Ju noticed something. Li Yao had become a pseudo-sage. Han Ju was still very assured about Li Yao. This woman's personality was the same as his. After establishing the Holy Mother sect, she had been cultivating in seclusion. The two of them had already become Dao companions. Han Ju would pay more attention to her after every cultivation. The current Holy Mother sect had already kept a low profile, and was no longer as powerful as before. Now it was in the midst of settling down. Tu Linger had become a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. She was a famous prodigy of the Holy Mother sect. Fairy Shi Xian and Chang Yue also held high positions in the Holy Mother sect, but their cultivation levels were not high enough. Han Ju's other Dao companion, Xian Qingjun, was stuck at the 6th mystic divine origin, and had yet to become a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Han Ju still liked Xian Qingjun very much. In the early stages of his cultivation, she had given him a lot of help. Han Ju thought for a moment, and sent her a dream. 30 years later, the lecture ended. Xian Qingjun suddenly pulled him, and covered her mouth with a smile. Are you in such a hurry to leave? Han Ju remained silent. He hesitated for a moment and said, Come back when you're free. The dream ended. Han Ju wasn't interested in having fun in his dreams. If Xian Qingjun wanted that, she could physically come back. He continued cultivating. In the depths of the chaos, a vast world floated, emitting 7-colored light. Heavenly troops guarded in all directions. In the world, there was a palace at the top of a mountain. In the hall, the naked Han Tua sat in a bronze cauldron. The potion was boiling. His body was burning red and he frowned. The evil Heavenly Emperor, Yi Tian, and He Tian stood in front of the cauldron. Black Heaven General, Yi Tian, and Han Tua were the 3 great generals of the heavenly court. They each commanded tens of millions of heavenly troops. Among them, Black Heaven General was the most experienced, and had the highest prestige. Looking at Han Tuo's state, Black Heaven General frowned and asked, Your Majesty, will he really be fine if this continues? Do you need me to find some herbs to nourish his body? The evil Heavenly Emperor was expressionless as he said, It's fine. He can withstand it. His physical potential is not inferior to a chaotic Fiend Celestial. I want to see his limit. Yi Tian asked curiously, Is this the reason why he can absorb the blood of the Fiend Celestial? What physique does he have? Black Heaven General shook his head. It should be because of his father. His father's cultivation is so strong, so his descendants will naturally benefit. Yi Tian sighed. It's so good to have a good father. The evil Heavenly Emperor did not interrupt, and only stared at Han Tua. At this moment, Two large blisters appeared on Han Tuo's forehead and exploded. Blood splattered everywhere. Immediately after, two vertical eyes appeared. The four-eyed Han Tuo looked extremely terrifying. His four eyes were sinister, scaring Etion and Hei-Tion, so much that they subconsciously took a step back. Boom! The bronze cauldron suddenly exploded, and medicine splashed everywhere. The evil heavenly emperor used his dermic powers to form an air barrier to block the medicine. Han Tuo slowly rose and opened his arms. His skin was metallic and his muscles were perfect. He sized up the body and muttered, "What a powerful force!" At this moment, thunder rumbled outside the hall, as if the sky was celebrating the birth of a peerless god. The evil heavenly emperor smiled. "How do you feel?" Han Tuo looked up at him and said, "I want to attain the Tao." "Then attain the Tao." The evil heavenly emperor raised his hand and waved. The spirit chi of the entire world surged into the hall and entered Han Tuo's body. Not only that, but the evil heavenly emperor also injected his dermic powers into Han Tuo's body to help him attain the Tao. Han Tuo twisted his neck. His four eyes suddenly turned blood red. His body began to swell, especially his back. Two huge tumors grew on his back. It was terrifying. "The two of you leave first," the evil heavenly emperor suddenly ordered. Etion and the Black Heaven General did not dare to think too much, and immediately retreated to prevent themselves from being injured. Time passed quickly. Hanju opened his eyes again, which meant that another 5,000 years had passed. Now that he was 290,000 years old, time passed really quickly. Hanju noticed that Xian Qingjun, Li Yao, Fairy Shixian, Chang Yuer, and Tu Linger were waiting outside the 100-peak Immortal River. He immediately moved the 5 women into the Taoist temple. Chang Yuer opened her eyes. She was stunned for a moment before saying bitterly, "Junior brother, it's really difficult to see you now. We came back at the right time, but still waited for many years." Fairy Shixian berated her. "What are you saying? Don't be rude." Hanju smiled. "It's fine. She's still willing to be my senior sister. I'm quite happy." He waved his hand and produced 5 meditation cushions for the 5 women to sit down. Xian Qingjun began to report the development of the Holy Mother sect. Li Yao sat quietly. Dressed in white, she was peerlessly beautiful. Her temperament was more stable than before, and she already had the aura of a sect master. Tu Linger stared at Hanju with a burning gaze, making him a little unhappy. "What? You still want to eat me?" Hanju's gaze landed on Fairy Shixian. She was as quiet and beautiful as he remembered. He missed Fairy Shixian and Chang Yuer more. He missed the times when he was immortal. As for love, Hanju had long surpassed the love of mortals. The Great Tao was the main melody of his life. Of course, if the 2 women liked him, he would not reject them. There was no need to have so many regrets. Chapter 714 Terror of the Emperor. Chapter 714 Terror of the Emperor. After Xian Qingjun finished speaking, Hanju said, "Actually, you don't have to report to me. I know everything." The 5 women were stunned and couldn't help but revere his cultivation. The Holy Mother sect was so far away from the 100-peak Immortal River, but Hanju could actually see everything. "Since you're finally back, I'll preach to you," he muttered. The 5 women looked happy and nodded. The great Tao of extreme origin covered the Taoist temple. 50 years later, Hanju ended the lecture and let them rest first. Li Yao stayed behind. The other 4 women pretended not to see this and left. She looked up at him and said, "I want to pass the position of the sect master to Ling, or I want to come back and cultivate. Can you help me become stronger? I don't want to stop in the heavenly Tao." Hanju asked, "Why did your ancestor send you a dream?" Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0TC0M. Li Yao was stunned for a moment before saying, "He taught me cultivation. He hopes that after I become stronger, I can go to the deity realm of the ruins of N to help him. You can see him visiting me in my dreams? Aren't you stronger than him?" At that time, she had cautiously asked Li Zizai. Li Zizai was full of confidence and said that no one would discover. Hanju said, "Of course. Li Zizai is only a freedom sage. How can he compare to me?" He deliberately said that with the intention of intimidating her. Although Li Yao's favorability was still 6 stars, everyone had their own ambitions. He did not want her to go against him. Li Yao said, "You're really powerful. This is also why I want to come back. I don't want to be too close to my ancestor. I, Li Yao, didn't rely on my ancestor's bloodline to be where I am today. It's all due to you." Back then, the family married her off for benefits. She resisted and was hunted down. When she was in despair, Hanju helped. If not for him, even if she didn't resist, she would probably have died in the previous calamity. Hanju smiled. "I thought you were going to run away with your ancestor." Li Yao shook her head. "Impossible. His Dao technique is average. He might be hiding something from me. I wonder how many disciples of the Li family are like me." She looked at Hanju again and said seriously, "I feel that I've already reached a bottleneck. Is there a way to attain the Dao? But I don't want to become a heavenly Dao sage. I want to walk your path." Pseudo-sage was already the ceiling for 99% of the geniuses. They couldn't take another step forward all their lives. Hanju said meaningfully, "Indeed, but it will be very painful. Moreover, I have to guarantee that you are completely loyal to me and will never betray me." Li Yao's eyes lit up. "I'm not afraid of pain. As for loyalty, I'm already yours. How can I betray you?" The way she said that, Hanju said seriously, "In the future, when Li Zizai visits you in your dreams, you can pretend to communicate with him and find out his goal, but you can't harm any disciple of the hidden sect, understand?" Li Yao nodded. She leaned forward and began to strip. Hanju frowned. "What are you doing? I'm not threatening you." Li Yao said, "I just want to try the cultivation technique I obtained previously. I wonder how wonderful it is to cultivate with a mighty figure like you." Hearing this, Hanju's brows relaxed. He did not like to force others, but it was fine if the other party took the initiative. It was good to relax occasionally. What happened after that was not for mortals to see. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. After Li Yao and Hanju fought for 2 months, Xian Qingjun came next and fought for another 4 months. During this period, Xian Qingjun also wanted to give birth to a child for Hanju, but he rejected her. Xing Hongshuan's son was not even born yet. He couldn't create another problem now. He would think about it in the future. Xian Qingjun also knew Xing Hongshuan's situation and did not insist. Before Hanju cultivated, he sent Li Yao and Xian Qingjun out. They planned to return to cultivate, but before that, they still had to deal with the aftermath and find a good successor for the Holy Mother sect. They would return in another 5,000 years. Hanju closed his eyes and started cultivating again. On the other side, outside the 33rd heaven, Pan Xian, Jin Shun, and Emperor Shao gathered in the hall. Pan Xian and Jin Shun were both exhausted. Emperor Shao stared at Pan Xian and hesitated. He wanted to tell him about Hanju's strength, but he was afraid of hurting him. If Pan Xian was not convinced and directly challenged Hanju, it would definitely be a disaster for the heavenly Dao. Emperor Shao had his own vision. He could fight for power, but he had to ensure that the heavenly Dao was not implicated. Pan Xian said, "The situation in the chaos has suddenly changed. Recently, a large faction has appeared and swept through the chaos. The chaotic heavenly road is also threatened. This matter is not optimistic. Fellow Taoist Shao, can you gather the devils to guard it?" The devil race had always existed, but they did not appear in the heavenly Dao collectively. Emperor Shao frowned. "The devils under me don't have a sage. How can they have the strength to guard it?" Pan Xian waved his hand. "Make the arrangements first. I'll discuss with the other sages." With that, he stood up and left, not giving Emperor Shao a chance to refuse. After Pan Xian headed to the Universal Hall, Emperor Shao couldn't help but tell Jin Shun about Hanju's performance. After Jin Shun learned of this, his expression changed drastically, but he did not panic. He already knew Pan Xian's attitude towards Hanju. In any case, they would not become enemies. What was there to panic about? Jin Shun said earnestly, "Regarding Hanju, we shouldn't guess from the perspective of a competitor. This is also fellow Taoist Pan's intention." Emperor Shao was moved. Could it be that Pan Xian had also changed sides? This situation was too familiar. Previously, Xiao Shilai, Sect Master Tianju, heavenly venerate Wufa, and the other sages had said the same. Then, every time Hanju interfered with the heavenly Tao's decision, they agreed without any complaints. Emperor Zhao's face paled. He suddenly felt that he was the only one in the entire sage circle who did not worship Hanju. How could Hanju be as simple as he seemed? The development of the hidden sect was completely ambitious. Jin Shen saw the change in Emperor Zhao's expression and could roughly guess what he was thinking, but he did not comfort him. To Jin Shen, he had no choice but to join Pan Xian. He had no objections to whoever Pan Xian followed. In any case, the other sages had also abandoned him. In the entire sage circle, only Hanju's faction had never suppressed him. The Pangle Hall fell silent. The two sages were each thinking about their own matters. In the darkness, a white jade stone staircase stretched across the void. Han Tuo followed the evil heavenly emperor. Han Tuo wore silver armor and looked the same as before. The previous two vertical eyes on his forehead were nowhere to be seen. Your Majesty, who are we going to see? Han Tuo asked curiously. He had already become a sage. His senses had transformed. The chaos had become especially vivid in his eyes. Everything was so new. The evil heavenly emperor smiled. To visit a senior of mine. It's all thanks to him that I was able to establish the heavenly court. Han Tuo asked curiously. Is it the previous one? The evil heavenly emperor shook his head. Don't think about that person from before. He has long transcended the battle of the chaos. The senior we're meeting now is also a chaotic fiend celestial. Chapter 7:15 Fiend Celestial True Body. Chapter 7:15 Fiend Celestial True Body Chaotic Fiend Celestial? Han Tuo was even more curious about that mysterious senior. The two of them continued forward. After walking for an unknown period of time, a door of light suddenly appeared on the white jade stone steps ahead. The evil heavenly emperor easily pushed it open, and the two of them entered one after another. Han Tuo only felt his vision flash. When he opened his eyes again, he discovered an incomparably huge throne in front of him. He looked up and saw an empty hall. The stone pillars were 10,000 feet thick and high. The top of the hall was a dazzling and beautiful starry sky. Han Tuo was about to ask the evil heavenly emperor when he suddenly bowed. Seeing this, Han Tuo hurriedly followed suit. Not bad. Although he's not a chaotic fiend celestial, he has a bloodline potential comparable to a chaotic fiend celestial. The heavenly Dao Hanju is indeed impressive. A loud voice sounded, and the lingering sound shook Han Tuo's Dao heart. Han Tuo was secretly shocked. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, D0TC0M. He was already a sage, but he couldn't help but feel reverence towards the chaotic fiend celestial. The evil heavenly emperor smiled. Tuor's potential is indeed impressive. Our heavenly court still needs him to fight in all directions. I came to find you this time, because I hope that you can teach him the fiend celestial body. He has already absorbed the blood of a chaotic fiend celestial. In essence, he's already a chaotic fiend celestial. It is said that every chaotic fiend celestial has their own true body. After awakening their true body, their strength will increase exponentially. I can't do it, so I can only find you to teach him. Han Tuo had already revealed his true body when he attained the Tao, but he couldn't open it again. The loud voice smiled. Sure, but shouldn't you make my cooperation with the heavenly court clearer? The evil heavenly emperor said in a low voice. In the future, your great Tao can be spread in the heavenly court. If anything happens to you, I will try my best to help, but it cannot go against my principles. As for the supreme treasure mentioned at the beginning, the heavenly court will also try its best to find it. The loud voice did not reply immediately. The atmosphere fell silent. Han Tuo was uneasy. It seemed that the evil heavenly emperor was not as close to this person as he had imagined. If this child obtains my inheritance in the future, he has to kill a sage for me. The loud voice sounded again. The evil heavenly emperor frowned. Han Tuo couldn't help but say, Who is it? Don't expect me to kill my father. He had seen many such scenes. Many mighty figures like to scheme against the enemy like this, causing the enemy to betray their family and break up. Haha, that's naturally impossible. I'm the Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial. I've attained the Great Tao for billions of years. Your father, Hanju, has only just entered the Great Tao realm. If I want to be enemies with him, I can attack him myself. Besides, I have no grudge with him. The sage I want you to kill happens to be from the deity realm of the ruins of End. He's also an enemy of your heavenly Tao. The loud voice laughed wantonly. Han Tua heaved a sigh of relief. The evil heavenly emperor said, I'm sorry, this child speaks without thinking. I apologize to you on his behalf. Can you tell us who that sage is? The Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial snorted. There's no harm in telling you. The leader of the ancestral magi, Di Jiang. The evil heavenly emperor was moved. Han Tua did not react. Although he had heard of the legend of Di Jiang, he did not know him. The evil heavenly emperor frowned. He wants to become enemies with Pengu. Let me kill him in his place. The Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial did not say anything. Han Tua said, Your Majesty, it's fine. I can kill him. If you're really worried, I don't want this inheritance. The evil heavenly emperor glanced at him and shook his head slightly. The Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial's voice sounded, Humph, brat, you're bargaining with me again. If not for the fact that I owe your father a favor, I would have long killed you. The evil heavenly emperor smiled. If not for Senior's help, I would have long died in the heavenly Tao immeasurable calamity. Actually, I've always treated you as my father, but the difference in status is too great. I don't dare to cross the line. Han Tua blinked and listened. Forget it. As long as you can help me kill Di Jiang, it's fine no matter who kills him. Let this child stay here. You can leave. No, I have to stay and accompany him. Are you worried about me? No, but I'm afraid that he'll be afraid. The evil heavenly emperor gave Han Tua a look. Han Tua immediately understood. Without your Majesty's company, my Tao heart will be unstable. Hee. The Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial sneered, but he did not refuse. 1,000 years later, in the void on the white jade stone steps, the evil heavenly emperor and Han Tua walked out of the door of light and walked in the direction they came from. Han Tua walked like a tiger in high spirits. His body was much stronger than when he came. The evil heavenly emperor smiled and asked, How do you feel? Han Tua said, I feel that my entire body is filled with strength. It's more than several times stronger than before. I'll be reborn if I activate the Fiend Celestial True Body. I can't wait to fight. His tone was filled with excitement. The evil heavenly emperor shook his head and laughed. He looked ahead and said meaningfully, The war will come soon, and it will never end. After I expand the heavenly troops, I should return to the heavenly Tao. Han Tua asked in surprise, Why do you want to return to the heavenly Tao? He already knew about the evil heavenly emperor's past. There might be war when he returned, to lead the heavenly Tao to the chaos. Don't worry, I'm not going back to take revenge. Hatred is a lesson. It's not enough to trap me. This matter was entrusted by Heavenly Venerate Xianyu. After the chaotic heavenly road was opened, more and more chaotic races and factions hid near it and plundered the heavenly Tao cultivators. The heavenly Tao needs the power of the heavenly court. The heavenly court needs to obtain a large number of heavenly troops from the heavenly Tao. It's a win-win situation. The evil heavenly emperor replied, causing Han Tua to look at him in admiration. He had followed the evil heavenly emperor for a long time. He had watched him bring the heavenly court to greater heights, and was deeply impressed by his methods and boldness. In Han Tuo's opinion, the cooperation with the heavenly Tao was perfect. It could make up for the lack of manpower in the heavenly court. If he was the evil heavenly emperor, even if heavenly Venerate Xiandu looked for him, he would probably find it difficult to make up his mind. After all, the evil heavenly emperor was expelled by the heavenly Tao in the past. After we return, if your father visits you in your dreams, don't tell him what the Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial wants us to do. Pengu's karma is too great. If it affects your father, it will be very difficult for him to cultivate in peace in the future. The evil heavenly emperor reminded. Han Tua nodded. I understand. The two of them walked side by side. Their figures gradually disappeared at the end of the white jade stone steps, as if they were walking towards eternity. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju opened his eyes and stretched. Another 5,000 years passed. He wanted to increase his seclusion time to 10,000 years. At this rate, it was almost impossible to break through a minor realm in 100,000 years. Too slow. Since it was slow, he could only numb himself and speed up his cultivation time. This way, when he looked back, his breakthrough speed would be faster. Hanju thought of this, and looked at Li Yao and Xian Qingjun outside the 100-peak Immortal River. Beside Xian Qingjun was a girl with an exquisite and cute face, wearing a grass dress. She was a flower spirit. Hanju cautiously used the simulation trial to test. He discovered that this woman was only a Grand Unity Heaven Immortal, and didn't have a powerful background. So he let down his guard. With a thought, he moved the two women into the 100-peak Immortal River, and not into his Taoist temple. Chapter 7:16 Hanju's Foundation. Chapter 7:16 Hanju's Foundation. After entering the 100-peak Immortal River, Xian Qingjun and Li Yao immediately came to visit him. They wanted to bring the flower spirit girl in. According to their introduction, this woman was a demon born in the Holy Mother sect. Because she was likable, they brought her along. Hanju could only turn a blind eye and move the girl into the 100-peak Immortal River. After all, Xian Qingjun and Li Yao were his women. He had to treat them differently. Hanju could sense that the flower girl was formed by a natural treasure. She was different from ordinary living beings, and had a special heavenly Tao providence. However, such potential was no longer worthy of his attention. Hanju started to check his emails. Your son Han Tua has obtained the inheritance of a mysterious mighty figure. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor has received guidance from a mysterious mighty figure. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your grand disciple Chu Shuren was attacked by a mysterious cultivator X692. Your good friend Huang Zuantian has left the Heavenly Tao. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL D0T C0M. Your disciple Su Qi controls the 6 paths of reincarnation, and is half a step into the sage realm. Your good friend Heavenly Calamity Emperor encountered a mysterious mighty figure in her dream. Her soul was injured. Your good friend Ancestor Shitian has transcended from the cycle of reincarnation. Your good friend Empress Hutu was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure, and was severely injured. Your disciple Tao Sovereign was attacked by a mysterious Tao Devil, X660971. Your disciple Zhao Xianyuan. The mysterious mighty figure Han Tua, and the evil Heavenly Emperor encountered should be the same person. It was probably the Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial. The Great Tao Concealment Fiend Celestial was very well behaved, and didn't have any hatred toward Hanju. He wasn't an enemy for the time being. Su Qi had improved greatly recently. He could become a sage soon. Something had actually happened to Heavenly Calamity Emperor. He had to care about it later. Speaking of which, the reason why Su Qi cultivated so quickly was that he had received a lot of help from the Heavenly Calamity Emperor. After all, the Heavenly Calamity Emperor also respected him now. When Hanju saw what happened to Ancestor Shitian, he couldn't help but sigh. The ancestor was still the ancestor. He had fought his way out. Ancestor Shitian was also a protagonist. He was once the ceiling of the Heavenly Tao. How could he die so easily? As for the subsequent emails, Hanju ignored them. After reading the emails, he immediately sent a dream to the Heavenly Calamity Emperor. The dream was the bridge of helplessness in the netherworld. After the Heavenly Calamity Emperor opened her eyes, her first reaction was vigilance. Hanju asked, "Who injured you previously?" With that said, the Heavenly Calamity Emperor heaved a sigh of relief. She said respectfully, "I'm not sure either. He claimed to be called Life, and wanted to incite me to start a rebellion. I rejected him and injured my soul. I thought you were him just now, so. Life?" Hanju first thought of Han Ming. 1. But ever since this kid was thrown into the second Tao field by him, he had been very obedient and didn't leave. Hanju said, "You did well. I'll preach the Tao for you. and help your cultivation increase. Try to reach the freedom realm as soon as possible. Heavenly Calamity Emperor had always been stuck at the perfected primordial chaos zenith heaven golden immortal realm. It was probably very difficult for her to break through on her own. Hearing this, Heavenly Calamity Emperor was pleasantly surprised and hurriedly knelt down to thank him. Hanju didn't say anything else and directly preached the Tao. 100 years later, Hanju opened his eyes. I want to know who the life that Heavenly Calamity Emperor mentioned is? Hanju asked in his mind, unable to deduce. There is no such entity as life in the karma tainted by Heavenly Calamity Emperor. Hanju showed a frown. There was no such person. Could it be that the other party was not called life? It seemed that he was afraid of being targeted by the Dark Forbidden Lord. At least, it meant that this life had guessed that the Dark Forbidden Lord was in the Heavenly Tao. Could it be the Curse Fiend Celestial? Hanju checked his interpersonal relationships. The portrait of the Curse Fiend Celestial was still there, and the name Life didn't appear. Speaking of the Curse Fiend Celestial, he was still being pestered by Divine Lord Peacock. Divine Lord Peacock even used his experience in battle to comprehend a karma mystical power. If this continued, the Curse Fiend Celestial might be killed by Divine Lord Peacock before he could see Hanju. Since he couldn't derive anything about life, he could only put it aside for the time being. If the other party really wanted to hurt him, he had to enter the Heavenly Tao first. The current Heavenly Tao was becoming stronger almost every day. Even the cultivation of those Heavenly Tao sages also became stronger. The Heavenly Tao sages also discovered this. This surprised them, so they worked very hard to develop the Heavenly Tao. Hanju began to observe the immortal world. The number of living beings in the immortal world and the myriad worlds had been increasing rapidly, especially after the opening of the chaotic Heavenly Road. A large number of cultivators had stepped onto it, causing the Heavenly Tao to have even less pressure to survive. The immortal world's continent was constantly expanding, and the mortal world was also constantly increasing its spirit chi. Ascension was the main theme of the mortal world. The Heavenly Road was the main theme of the immortal world. One level after another, it made all living beings feel that cultivation was endless. Hanju was very satisfied with the current changes in the Heavenly Tao. It had to be said that the Heavenly Tao sages were still very talented, especially in bewitching the will of all living beings. Just like that, one day, the Heavenly Tao will become the center of the chaos. I will cultivate quietly at the peak of the Heavenly Tao. No one will dare to disturb me. Hanju thought happily. His dream was to be so grand and low-key. He observed carefully and discovered that the number of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals in the immortal world had already doubled, especially those in the Emperor Realm and Deity Realm. In the era of geniuses, cultivation was extremely prosperous. Even the mortals of the human race had been tested for their spiritual roots. Of course, the humans of the mortal world had not developed to this extent. The famous race, the ancient race, the dragon race, and so on were still powerful. They were not suppressed by the humans. Speaking of races, the Qilin race in the 100-Peak Immortal River had also been developing. Under the lead of the first transformed Qilin, Su Lin, the number of Qilin race members had already exceeded 100,000. This was even when most of the members were busy cultivating. They usually lived underground and would occasionally come up to communicate with the hidden sect disciples. Their identities were equivalent to the in-name disciples of the hidden sect, so the disciples would not bully them. Not to mention that this was under Hanju's nose. Unknowingly, Hanju, who had 2 Tao fields and the Heavenly Tao, was already a colossus. In the chaos, he was also a force that could not be underestimated. He could be invincible just by relying on the uniqueness of the Heavenly Tao. The prerequisite was not to provoke the chaotic deities. Even with such a huge force, Hanju still maintained his original intention. He didn't indulge in pleasure and continued to cultivate diligently. After Hanju silently summarized his strength, his confidence increased greatly. Then he entered cultivation again. The chaotic deities and the Tao creators were blades placed above his head. If he wasn't on the same level as them, Hanju really couldn't relax. He had to cultivate to be the strongest. On the other side, in the dark forbidden zone, Two figures hung in the darkness, quietly looking in the same direction. They were surrounded by the black aura, and could only see their human forms. They couldn't see their true bodies, and their eyes flickered with green light. The smaller figure said, "The heavenly Tao is becoming stronger and stronger. At this rate, it will sooner or later become an existence of the chaotic overlord realm, and surpass the former deity realm of the ruins of End. Aren't we going to take action?" The other figure said in a low voice, "No, we have to investigate who the Dark Forbidden Lord is, and if he's hiding in the heavenly Tao. Otherwise, we might end up like the Flame race and the Calamity race." Wan Ming is the Chinese character of life. Chapter 7 300,000 years old. Chapter 7 300,000 years old. What if the Dark Forbidden Lord is here? Will we give up on attacking the heavenly Tao? The smaller figure asked in a low voice in a rather dissatisfied tone. The other figure was silent for a moment before saying, "Wait for my instructions. The current situation in the chaos is unpredictable. Many old things that have lived in seclusion for countless years have appeared. We have to investigate who is behind the heavenly Tao to avoid provoking an existence we can't afford to offend." The smaller figure was silent. They watched for a while more before disappearing. On the other side, outside the 33rd heaven, in the Universal Hall, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du and Pan Xian sat opposite each other. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's expression darkened as he asked, "Really?" Pan Xian nodded. "I don't know who spread the rumors. They said that if the heavenly Tao continues to develop, Pangu will definitely revive. It's said that the 12 ancestral magi have already revived. Empress Hutu has also joined them, and created a world in the chaos to rebuild the Magus race, causing the credibility of this rumor to increase greatly. Many factions have already appeared in the chaotic heavenly road. I wonder when they will attack the heavenly Tao. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, D0TC0M. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du fell into deep thought. Pan Xian continued. Recently, an existence calling itself life appeared in the chaos, and captured many heavenly Tao living beings. He probably wants to use them to infiltrate the immortal world. This should be a fake identity, and we can't deduce the karma, but he can completely hide it. This person's mystical power can't be underestimated. Furthermore, he's still recruiting troops with the intention of targeting the heavenly Tao. Life. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du frowned. After a long while, he slowly said, "I will try to find out about this life with teacher. During this period of time, you still have to take care of the chaotic heavenly road. Don't run around." Pan Xian nodded, then stood up and left. In 2 steps, he disappeared without a trace. Looking in the direction he left, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du frowned again. Pan Xian was being too abnormal. He was completely different from before, making him very uncomfortable. It was unknown how Han Ju subdued him. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du did not think too much about it. Instead, he began to cast a spell and contacted his master. More than 2,000 years later, Han Ju was still cultivating when lines of words suddenly appeared in front of him. Detected that you are already 300,000 years old, and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and shock the chaos. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a heavenly Tao spirit stone, and a supreme treasure. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and stay away from trouble. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and a creation spirit stone. Han Ju sighed. He was already 300,000 years old. Time was truly heartless. Han Tua was also more than 200,000 years old. In that case, they were more like brothers. Cough. What was he thinking? Han Ju silently chose the second option, to expand the Fiend Celestial Army. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and stay away from trouble. You obtained a great Tao fragment and a creation spirit stone. Han Ju took out the creation spirit stone, and his consciousness entered the primordial world. He began to choose the Fiend Celestial Qi. In the end, he chose the Void Fiend Celestial and fused the creation spirit stone with its Fiend Celestial Qi. Then he threw himself into cultivation. This time, he planned to enter seclusion for 10,000 years to test the waters. He wanted to see if it was possible for him to stay in seclusion for 10,000 years at once. Hanju quickly immersed himself in the great Tao of extreme origin. Thousands of thoughts exploded in his mind, creating countless things and depicting the scene of the great Tao more and more. In the vast starry sky, countless figures swarmed towards a huge chaotic beast. This chaotic beast was like a huge turtle. Above the turtle shell was a mountain covered in trees. The fruits on these trees were actually Dharma treasures of all kinds. They were dazzling and beautiful. Chu Shuren stood on a rock and watched the chaotic battle from afar. He saw the greed and cruelty of the cultivators. He couldn't help but sigh. After leaving the heavenly Tao, he discovered that the chaos was even crueler than he had imagined. He originally thought that it would be very difficult to encounter human traces, but he discovered that it was not the case. Wherever there was an opportunity, there would be cultivators fighting. Some came from the heavenly Tao, some from the deity realm of the ruins of End, and some from other chaotic worlds. Beside Chu Shuren stood a masked woman with a graceful figure. She smiled and asked, "What? Are you afraid? You don't dare to snatch it?" Hearing this, Chu Shuren said calmly, "Why snatch? If you snatch something from others today, they will try to snatch something from you tomorrow. Only by letting go can you obtain the Tao." The masked woman rolled her eyes at him and did not say anything else. At this moment, a dragon roar sounded, suppressing all the sounds of fighting. All the cultivators turned their heads to look. In the depths of the darkness, space shattered. A golden dragon charged out with unstoppable force. On the dragon's head stood a man in silver armor. Behind the dragon were countless heavenly troops with a terrifying aura. It's the heavenly court. He's stepping on a golden dragon and wearing silver armor. That's Heavenly Court's Divine General Han, a cultivator exclaimed. The tens of thousands of cultivators surrounding the chaotic beast quickly dispersed. Divine General Han? Chu Shuren's gaze landed on Han Tua, and he couldn't help but be stunned. He pinched his fingers to deduce with a strange expression. He couldn't deduce Han Tua because he had already attained the Tao. However, Han Tua looked very similar to Hanju. He had previously learned from the Myriad Worlds projection that Hanju had a son named Han Tua, who was now following the heavenly court in battle. Could it be this Divine General Han? Han Tua felt Chu Shuren's gaze and glanced over, startling him. Han Tua saw the karma on Chu Shuren at a glance. He was a hidden sect disciple. A pseudo-sage was probably a personal disciple of his father. Han Tua shouted, "This is the heavenly court's affairs. Hurry up and retreat. Otherwise we'll kill you all." The domineering declaration made all the cultivators stay away from the chaotic beasts. No one dared to complain. The heavenly court's reputation had long resounded through the chaos. The three divine generals were terrifying existences who had killed countless people. Han Tua approached the chaotic beast. The chaotic beast let out a low roar and wanted to escape. Han Tua raised his hand, and his dharmic powers transformed into chains that wrapped around the huge chaotic beast, preventing it from moving. Han Tua suddenly glanced at Chu Shuren and sent a voice transmission. "Come over and choose 3 Dharma treasures. Choose whatever you want." Chu Shuren was stunned. Han Tua waited quietly with his back facing him. Looking at his back, Chu Shuren suddenly thought of Hanju. It was too similar. Chu Shuren did not hesitate and immediately flew over. The masked woman hurriedly asked, "Don't go over. They're from the heavenly court." Chu Shuren ignored her and quickly flew towards the chaotic beast. The heavenly troops wanted to stop him, but Han Tua raised his hand and told them not to move. The cultivators in the distance all stared at Chu Shuren, not knowing what he wanted to do. Soon Chu Shuren chose 3 supreme treasures. Whoosh! All the cultivators were shocked. Who was this person? He still dared to choose a treasure in front of the heavenly court, and the heavenly court did not stop him. Chu Shuren came in front of Han Tua and cupped his fists. "Thank you." A smile appeared on Han Tuo's serious face. "We're all disciples of the same family. There's no need to be so polite. Follow me first. You can leave after you completely control these 3 Dharma treasures to avoid being targeted by the thieves." Chu Shuren hesitated for a moment before nodding in agreement. Chapter 7:18 10,000 Years in a Flash, Fiend Celestial Army. Chapter 7:18 10,000 Years in a Flash. Fiend Celestial Army. Looking at the heavenly troops dragging the huge chaotic beast forward, Chu Shuren sighed. The weakest of these heavenly soldiers was at the Grand Unity True Immortal Realm. There was no lack of Deity Realm cultivators. All of them were at the Deity Realm, and could only be heavenly soldiers. The heavenly generals under Han Tua were all Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals. All of them emitted a murderous aura that made people not dare to approach. Han Tua led the heavenly troops forward and greeted him. Chu Shuren sighed. I've long heard that Grandmaster's son is very talented. I didn't expect you to have already become a sage. Han Tua was almost not by Han Ju's side. He had been wandering in the chaos, and cultivated faster than the personal disciples. Chu Shuren could only blame it on the difference in potential. Dragons gave birth to dragons, and phoenixes gave birth to phoenixes. Han Ju's direct bloodline was naturally a prodigy, with unparalleled potential. Han Tua smiled. I was able to attain the Tao because of a fortuitous encounter. It was not completely based on my potential. How's the situation in the hidden sect now? Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL, D0TC0M. Chu Shuren briefly told him the situation, but did not go into detail. How strong the hidden sect was a secret that could not be revealed. Han Tua suddenly asked, Do I have a younger brother or sister? Chu Shuren was stunned and hesitated, not knowing if he should say it. At this moment, the masked woman who had been with Chu Shuren flew over, and was stopped by the heavenly soldiers. Han Tua remembered that she was standing with Chu Shuren, so he looked at him and asked, An acquaintance? Do you want to bring her along? Chu Shuren thought for a moment and said, Bring her along. She saved my life. Han Tua raised his hand to signal the heavenly soldiers to move. The masked woman immediately flew over, but she did not completely approach Han Tua and the other two. Instead, she followed beside the chaotic beast. Han Tua smiled. Very sensible. He looked at Chu Shuren again and waited for his reply. Chu Shuren sighed to himself and said truthfully, You do have a younger brother, but he's not born yet. Han Tua was stunned and asked in surprise, Why isn't he born yet? Hasn't he been gestating for tens of thousands of years? Chu Shuren smiled bitterly. That's right. It's indeed a long time, but he's still gestating in his mother's womb. He doesn't seem like a human at all. He's more like another connate life form. Then his potential should be very strong. Han Tua sighed. It wasn't just very strong. It was definitely world-shaking. No wonder it could resonate with his bloodline. Han Tua would never forget that terrified and uneasy feeling in the past. For this, the evil heavenly emperor even brought him to visit an ancient and mysterious supreme existence. Chu Shuren did not comment. He was a little terrified, not knowing if it was good or bad to say this. Han Ju was very powerful. It was normal for children to fight for power in the future. Han Tua saw his expression, and guessed what he was thinking. He said helplessly, What are you thinking? How can I be jealous of my younger brother? Besides, father loves me very much. If not for father paying attention to me, I would have died countless times in the chaos. Ever since Han Ju took action that day, Han Tua attributed all his past troubles to his father's help. Chu Shuren asked curiously, Grandmaster can also save you despite staying in the heavenly Tao? Yes, that day. Han Tua began to talk about the scene of Han Ju attacking. He was very excited, and his face was filled with admiration. Chu Shuren instantly thought of a mystical power. Heaven Earth Mystic Yellow World Piercing Sword Finger. He also knew this mystical power, but it was not as terrifying as Han Ju's. From the heavenly Tao to the depths of the chaos, Chu Shuren was extremely shocked just by listening to Han Tua. How terrifying was Grandmaster's potential. He had been in seclusion in the heavenly Tao. Other than his cultivation, his strength was also rapidly increasing. It was too exaggerated. The more they chatted, the more familiar they became with one another. The heavenly generals were also whispering. Han Tua was usually extremely serious. Even when facing the heavenly general, He was rarely so happy. Who was this person? 10,000 years passed very quickly, especially for Hanju, who was in seclusion. He opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. 10,000 years passed. There was no wind or waves in the hidden sect. At least, it did not affect his cultivation. Hanju was both relieved and disappointed. The disciples had all grown up, and did not seem to need him. The heavenly Tao was the same. Everything was official, and the sages usually did not disturb him. I'm really a masochist. Isn't this a good thing? Hanju smiled self-deprecatingly, and looked at the Taoist temple next door. He discovered that Xing Hongxian was not cultivating. Instead, she was chatting with Xian Qingjun about children. Xing Hongxian also expressed her worry. Although being pregnant with her son could help her cultivation increase quickly, she felt that she was squeezing out her son's potential. Xian Qingjun thought that she was thinking too much and comforted her. Not long ago, Xing Hongxian had just broken through to the pseudo-sage realm, and had already caught up to his personal disciples. Xian Qingjun was envious. She also wanted to get pregnant. This way, her cultivation level would increase rapidly like Xing Hongxian. Hanju eavesdropped for a while, and then turned to the heavenly Tao. He remembered that 1,000 years ago, someone had obtained the sage position. This person was called Su Du Dao. Hanju counted with his fingers, then his expression turned strange. Su Du Dao had actually acknowledged immortal Emperor Samsara as his master in the past and later joined Pan-Xian. Pan-Xian should have deduced the karma between him and immortal Emperor Samsara, and also deduced the relationship between immortal Emperor Samsara and Hanju. So he supported Su Du Dao. After the Earth immortal world entered the heavenly Tao, the reincarnation space was no longer a secret to the sages. All the sages knew that immortal Emperor Samsara was Hanju's subordinate. Hanju also formed his own network. In the future, the sages would probably have to accept his kindness. This was a little like the Tao ancestor. When the Tao ancestor was still around, almost all the sages came from his disciples. There were no sages outside the Tao sect. Emperor Shao, sage fated secrets, and the others had also become Tao ancestors' disciples. A dragon slayer would eventually become a dragon? Cough. I'm different from the Tao ancestor. Hanju cursed himself for thinking too much. After 10,000 years, the heavenly Tao had become much stronger. The immortal world alone had expanded by 1/10. Very good. Hanju went to the second Tao field. He released the flesh fiend celestial. The chaotic fiend celestial was born with the cultivation of a zenith heaven golden immortal. He asked Morong Qi to receive him, and sent a voice transmission to Hanming. Hanming quickly entered the temple and bowed to him. Hanju said, "Why are you depressed recently?" He had just seen the other fiend celestials gathered together to cultivate. Hanming was still hiding in a corner alone. Hanming gritted his teeth and said, "Even though the Tao field is filled with spirit qi, my cultivation speed is still very slow. I feel like I've embarrassed you." Compared to the chaotic fiend celestials, his cultivation speed was too pathetic. Hanju thought for a moment, and decided to transform Hanming into a chaotic fiend celestial in advance. He was already a zenith heaven golden immortal, and should be able to withstand it. However, before that, he had to transform Guanbubi into a chaotic fiend celestial. Otherwise, he would be jumping the queue. Therefore, Hanju called Guanbubi in. "Are you ready to become chaotic fiend celestials?" Hanju asked expressionlessly. When Guanbubi heard this, he was immediately excited and nodded desperately. Hanming's eyes lit up. Hanju directly dispersed their bodies and placed their souls into the primordial world. He multitasked and fused them with the 2 balls of fiend celestial qi. The heavenly Tao became stronger and stronger. Hanju's fiend celestial army also had to speed up. After this fusion, he prepared to preach the Tao in the second Tao field, to help the cultivation of the fiend celestials increase rapidly. Morong Qi, the Crimson Fox, and the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial were the earliest chaotic fiend celestials. It was time for them to attain the Tao. Chapter 719 Unifying the Chaotic Fiend Celestials. Chapter 719 Unifying the Chaotic Fiend Celestials. Hanju returned to the main Dao field and used his dermic powers to protect Guanbubi and Han Ming's souls while checking his emails. After becoming a great Dao sage, he could already easily help his disciples fuse with the Fiend Celestial Qi. When he opened the emails, Hanju was filled with anticipation. He had not read emails for 10,000 years. It would probably be very exciting. The feeling of opening a mystery box appeared again. Your grand disciple Chu Shuren has comprehended a supreme treasure. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your disciple Zhao Xianyuan fell into the chaotic abyss. The karma is concealed. Your disciple Dao Sovereign was attacked by demons, X80213228. Your good friend Jiang, he was attacked by demons, X73346421/. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, D0TC0M. Your good friend Divine Lord Peacock has joined the Heavenly Court. Your good friend Empress Hutu was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure and was severely injured. Your good friend Ancestor Shitian has entered the source of darkness. His soul has been cleansed by the dark power, and he has been reborn. Your disciple Zhou Fan used the Great Dao Tower to spy on the Great Dao Immeasurable Calamity and suffered a backlash. Dao Sovereign and the other two were being beaten again, especially Zhao Xianyuan, who had fallen into danger. However, Hanju was not worried. In any case, these three had already left a backup plan in the 100-peak Immortal River. It was fine even if they died. Why did Divine Lord Peacock join the Heavenly Court? He had to ask later. He couldn't let the Curse Fiend Celestial off. Hanju saw what happened to Ancestor Shitian. Not only did he escape, but he was also making a comeback. Further down, Hanju saw many good friends obtaining opportunities. Li Xianao, who controlled the outer sect of the hidden sect, Hanyu of Buzhou Divine Mountain, Dao Comprehension Sword of the Holy Mother sect, Huang Zuantian of the Jie School, and so on went to the chaos to seek opportunities. There was an endless stream of people on the chaotic heavenly road. Many cultivators were even setting up stalls on the chaotic heavenly road to sell all sorts of spirit herbs, dharma artifacts, and natural treasures. The common currency was the Khanate pill created by Heavenly Venerate Xian. The Khanate pill was formed by Khanate Qi and could be used for cultivation or healing. The immortal world still used spirit pills and spirit stones as currency. The mortal world was even more vulgar. It still stopped at gold, silver, and jewelry. Just by reading the emails, Hanju could feel the waves of the era. The heavenly Dao was expanding into the chaos with a domineering aura. After reading the emails, Hanju sent a dream to Divine Lord Peacock. The dream was in the void. Divine Lord Peacock opened his eyes and saw Hanju, who had transformed into the Dark Forbidden Lord. He immediately raised his eyebrows and snorted. You came as soon as I stopped chasing after the Curse Fiend Celestial. It seems that you have been watching me very closely. Hanju asked. What have you been doing recently? Divine Lord Peacock couldn't help but curse. Don't mention it. Previously, I almost killed the Curse Fiend Celestial. In the end, an existence called life interfered, and I was almost severely injured. That fellow threatened to unify the chaotic Fiend Celestials and kill Penga's orthodoxy. He advised me to stay away from trouble and not participate in the overall situation. He's too arrogant. Life again? Hanju asked. He can't kill you? Divine Lord Peacock snorted. How is that possible? I'm at the perfected freedom realm after all. How can he kill me so easily? Hanju immediately looked down. In any case, he could easily kill Divine Lord Peacock. However, this fellow was with the Curse Fiend Celestial, and even wanted to unify the chaotic Fiend Celestials. He was really ambitious. I joined the Heavenly Court to investigate this life. The evil Heavenly Emperor was also threatened by him. Isn't he also your subordinate? Divine Lord Peacock shrugged. Hanju said, chasing the Curse Fiend Celestial is your main mission. As for life, be careful. He's not someone you can deal with. Don't die. Divine Lord Peacock snorted. I don't believe it. He's hiding his true appearance and karma. He must be scared. This means that his strength is not enough to withstand the hatred his arrogance attracts. Hanju felt like he had been insulted. This little peacock's words were always so unpleasant. Hanju lost interest and quickly removed the dream. He opened his eyes and frowned. Who is this life? I want to know who injured Divine Lord Peacock and Heavenly Calamity Emperor, Hanju asked in his mind. Few people could hurt these two. Unable to deduce. There is no such karma. Hanju showed a frown. There was an existence that even the system could not deduce? It had to be known that even Pangu and the Tao ancestor could expose some karma. Could it be that life was stronger than them? Hanju had no choice but to ask in another way. Why is there a situation that can't be deduced? Either the other party far exceeds the system's limit, or the other party has a special supreme treasure. Special supreme treasure? It should be the second reason. If life was so strong, he could directly destroy the chaos. Why did he have to do so many tricks? Hanju didn't believe it, and asked a few more times. But he still couldn't deduce anything. He could only give up. The other party has already targeted the heavenly Tao. Since I can't deduce it, I'll wait for him to attack. After Hanju thought it through, his brows relaxed. The current heavenly Tao was no longer the same as before. It was not something that any random chaotic race could overturn. Hanju sent a voice transmission to Heavenly Venerate Xian Du, telling him to prepare well, and not let his guard down. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du was not surprised and directly agreed. He probably knew about the existence of life. Then, Hanju closed his eyes, and continued cultivating. Another 10,000 years passed. Hanju went to the second Tao field, and released Han Ming and Guan Bubi. Guan Bubi transformed into the unbeatable Fiend Celestial, and Han Ming transformed into the Soul Fiend Celestial. As for the Void Fiend Celestial, it was still being nurtured. He still had to wait for a period of time. The original chaotic Fiend Celestial had an additional soul nurturing process than fusion, so it was slower. Moreover, every chaotic Fiend Celestial was different. The nurturing time was not constant. It all depended on Hanju's understanding. Is this the chaotic Fiend Celestial? Guan Bubi sized up his body and was extremely excited. Han Ming was the same. Hanju waved his hand and sent them out. Then, he returned to the main Tao field, and summoned Li Yao into the Taoist temple. Are you ready? Hanju asked seriously. Li Yao took a deep breath and said, I'm already prepared. Hanju said, from now on, you will leave the 100-peak immortal river, and even sever your connection with the myriad worlds projection. Li Yao was stunned, but she still nodded. Her greatest goal was to become stronger. Hanju didn't say anything else. He directly destroyed her body, and threw her soul into the primordial world, fusing with one of the Fiend Celestial Qi. After Li Yao successfully nurtured it, Hanju would preach the Tao to the second Tao field. Didn't life want to unite the chaotic Fiend Celestials? At that time, they would see whose chaotic Fiend Celestials were stronger. Of course, he hoped that life could last until then. Hanju thought. He was about to close his eyes and cultivate, when Heavenly Venerate Xian Du's voice sounded. Fellow Taoist Han, come quickly. The heavenly Tao is in trouble. Hanju looked up, and confirmed that there were no unfamiliar existences outside the 33rd heaven, before jumping into the Universal Hall. The sages had already gathered here. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du, South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Sect Master Tianju, Emperor Shao, Heavenly Venerate Wufa, Xiao Shilai, Shi Dudao, Li Daokong, Fang Liang, Huang Zuantian, Jin Shen Pan Xian and Su Dudao. This was the current lineup of Heavenly Tao sages. Seeing Hanju, the sages nodded. The new sage Su Dudao hurriedly stood up and bowed. This is the new sage. He has a relationship with you, and has obtained the inheritance of immortal Emperor Samsara. Pan Xian smiled and introduced him. Su Jiu said respectfully, greetings, senior. Hanju nodded slightly. Su Dudao has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points 2 stars. Chapter 720 Life's Identity. Chapter 720 Life's Identity. Was there something wrong with this fellow? Hanju saw the hatred notification, and remained calm. He nodded slightly at Su Dudao, and sat beside Heavenly Venerate Xian Du. The other sages were all seated. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, recently, a mysterious mighty figure named Life has appeared in the chaos. He has already become powerful, and said that he wants to flatten the heavenly Tao in 100,000 years. We have to be on guard. The sages were in an uproar. Trample the heavenly Tao. Who is he? He's so arrogant. What a joke. Even the deity realm of the ruins of N can't do it. What right does he have to speak arrogantly? Where is this person from? Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, D0TC0M. Life. The heavenly Tao is no longer the same as before. If he dares to come, we can give him a surprise. Although the sages were shocked, they did not panic. The heavenly Tao was special. Even existences above the sages could not barge in. If they wanted to attack the heavenly Tao, they could only send living beings below the sage realm into the heavenly Tao and destroy the providence of the heavenly Tao, causing it to collapse. Only then could mighty figures step in. Hanju didn't participate in the discussion and only listened quietly. Although he was not staring at Su Dudao, he was observing this guy. It was really strange for Su Dudao to develop two-star hatred towards him for no reason. Hanju first thought of life. Could this fellow be related to life? Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental? Hanju used the simulation trial to test, but didn't see any words related to life in the introduction. I want to know if Su Dudao is related to the outside world beyond the heavenly Tao. Hanju asked. 3 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes, I knew it. Hanju continued to deduce. Who is Su Dudao in contact with? Unable to deduce. There is no such karma. Hanju was amused. Life hid his karma. But it couldn't hide the fact that he was in contact with Su Dudao. It was just like how Hanju asked if Divine Lord Peacock was injured by the mighty figure who saved the cursed fiend celestial. He could definitely get the outcome, but he couldn't ask about life's true identity. Oh my life, you're really careless. If Hanju didn't have the system and couldn't discover the sage's impression of him, he might really have succeeded. Hanju sneered in his heart, but he didn't immediately stand up to point out Su Dudao. He was thinking about how to make use of this fellow's identity. He had to understand how strong life was. Then, Heavenly Venerate Xian Du began to arrange defenses. Apart from Hanju, all the sages were arranged. Su Dudao suddenly asked, what about Senior Han? If the heavenly Tao doesn't have Senior Han's protection, I'm not confident. He revealed a worried expression, as if he was really worried about the heavenly Tao. Heavenly Venerate Wufa glanced at him and said, this is confidential. The other sages also revealed thoughtful expressions. Su Dudao was still too inexperienced to play tricks in front of them. Pan Xian was no longer the boorish man from before. He could also tell what Su Dudao was thinking. He couldn't help but look embarrassed. He glared at him and berated him. How can you, a new sage, dictate what fellow Taoist Han does? Su Dudao said fearfully, I'm not pointing fingers. It's just that I've heard of the legend of the immeasurable merit divine, might heavenly sage. Not only me, but in the hearts of all living beings, Senior Han is also the greatest protection of the heavenly Tao. Heavenly Venerate Xian Du said, all right, don't be suspicious of each other in times of danger. The sages nodded. Hanju didn't speak. He smiled and looked extremely easygoing. Su Dudao did not dare to speak anymore. He was secretly shocked. Why are the sages protecting him? Is it fear? But in the heavenly Tao, sages are undying. There's no need to rush to please him. Su Dudao couldn't figure it out. He suddenly felt that the sage circle was not as complicated as he thought. The reason why the heavenly Tao could develop quickly was that the sages were united. Why were they united? All because they listened to Hanju? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du asked Pan Xian to report the situation of the chaotic heavenly road. The chaotic heavenly road has been completely perfected. Even the great Tao sages can't destroy it. More than 1 billion living beings come and go every day. It even attracted other living beings from the little heavenly Tao, the myriad worlds, and the dimensional space to join the heavenly Tao. Pan Xian explained nonstop. The smugness on his face growing the chaotic heavenly road was definitely supported by him. Now that it had begun to increase the providence of the heavenly Tao, he naturally had the greatest merit. After he finished speaking, Su Dudao said, I'll also head to the chaotic heavenly road. I can spar with the experts of the chaotic world. It's said that many sages in the chaotic world use their strength to attain the Tao, or those who kill 3 corpses to attain the Tao. Li Daokong said. Then I'll go too. Shi Dudao rolled his eyes and cursed. How long are you going to pester me? You're not my match. Li Daokong chuckled and did not reply. The sages were already used to it, and Hanju didn't interfere. If he spoke, he would either use his power to suppress others or let Li Daokong suffer. No matter what, it was inappropriate. Moreover, the battle between the two was already benign. Actually, Shi Dudao also enjoyed fighting. If not for Li Daokong, how could he keep improving? An hour later, the sages left. Hanju suddenly smiled at Su Dudao and said, I see that you're quite concerned about the heavenly Tao. Come to my Tao field. I'll preach the Tao for you and increase your strength. You can also serve the heavenly Tao in the future. Hearing this, Su Dudao was pleasantly surprised and hurriedly agreed. The other sages had different reactions. Heavenly Venerate Xian, Du had the strangest expression. Hanju waved his sleeve and brought Su Dudao to the 100-peak Immortal River. After entering the Taoist temple, Su Dudao was about to speak when Hanju directly suppressed him and imprisoned his consciousness. Time passed. 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Primordial Heavenly Prison has successfully enslaved the target. Su Dudao has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability max. Su Dudao opened his eyes and bowed respectfully to him. Hanju asked, Who contacted you in the chaos? Su Dudao replied, Life, a mysterious existence. I don't know his true identity either. He promised me that after destroying the heavenly Tao, he would let me be the heavenly Tao's master. Hanju showed a frown. Did Su Dudao not know Life's identity? You know nothing about him. How can you trust him? Hanju asked in confusion. Su Dudao replied, I've once stepped onto the chaotic heavenly road and roamed the chaos. I've seen his strength. He's indeed terrifying. I witnessed him subdue a chaotic fiend celestial. He looked terrified. Hanju's eyes lit up. He asked for more details, and Su Dudao said everything he knew. In the end, Hanju let him stay the same and pretend that he did not submit to him. He sent Su Dudao to the 33rd heaven and used the derivation function. I want to see the battle described by Su Dudao. Hanju directly avoided life and deduced from the perspective of the chaotic fiend celestial and Su Dudao. 200 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Hanju's consciousness fell into the illusion. He opened his eyes and saw that he was standing beside Su Dudao. Su Dudao trembled like a candle in the storm, about to be extinguished at any moment. Hanju looked up. Flames flickered in the depths of the darkness. Space shattered and formed shattered crystals that floated in the void. Lightning of all colors interwove. It was endless. 2 figures were fighting in the depths of the lightning. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.